Hey, wait.
You know I got
Hey,
anything for you.
so Mark, Ron is a battle rapper.
Okay.
And he starts our intro with a little freestyle.
Just like a nice
Okay.
intro. You know?
Okay.
I want to make you feel comfortable. We're in a beautiful home.
All right.
Yeah, I need to go a cappella though. I have no rhythm. All right, here we go.
We'll go.
Smell that? Champion odor. Mavericks owner. He put his blood into this shit like a plasma donor.
Okay.
He's blessed with the green, cause investing's a breeze. It's funny, they call him Cuban, cause he's not pressed with the cheese. You see how the shark's moving? An unnaturally smart human, billionaire, luminary, Yinzer, Mark Cuban.
Ooh, that's
my favorite billionaire, bro. Mark Cuban, bro.
Hey, that's fire.
Wait, what the fuck?
Welcome to Legend.
So happy to have you here. Thank you for being out here. We're recording from the famous Jimmy Goldstein's palatial estate. What do you know about this place?
You know, it's legendary. I mean, Jimmy, if you don't know Jimmy, right, he goes to all the Lakers games, all the Clippers games, every Western Conference playoff game. And he sits right by the visitor's bench. And I sit right behind the visitor's bench or right next to it. And so I've seen him, I don't know how many hundreds of games. And, Mark, you got to come to my house. Mark, you got to come to my house. And I'm like, I'd love to, Jim. And he's had parties up here. And, you know, I know tons of people have been up there, but never made it.
Charlie's Angels, The Big Lebowski filmed here.
The Big Lebowski did?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
But, you know, Jimmy's a mystery, man.
He really is.
Especially when you see who comes to games with. That's the mystery.
Yeah. What are you doing?
7 foot tall, like, Baltic woman. Like,
yes.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Like, English optional.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But Jimmy's a great guy. I mean, he's got a heart of gold. He'll always give you a hug and shake your hand and introduce you. Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah, he is. Great man.
So, like I said, we know you from your time with the Mavericks. We know you from your time on Shark Tank. Now a lot of people are getting to know you from Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drugs Company, a place where you're selling drugs at no upcharge to the consumer. What do people not know about being a drug dealer?
Yeah, I got what you need.
Yo.
That's all they need to know. No, what costplusdrugs.com is, you know, when you need medications, no matter who you are, right? Unless you got great insurance, when you walk into a pharmacy or when the doctor tells you you're going to need this medication, you have no idea what it's going to do. And so even when you go to the pharmacy, sometimes you'll show up, you don't know what your copay is going to be, you don't know what the cost is going to be. And if you don't have insurance, you're in deep shit, right? So with costplusdrugs.com, what we said was we're going to bring some transparency. So when you go to costplusdrugs.com, put in the name of the medication. We're up closing in on 2,000 now, and we'll keep on adding more. But if we have it, you'll see the price we pay. You'll see the 15% markup that we charge you. That's it. And then you'll see shipping and handling for the pharmacy fee. That's it. And if you're not into mail order, you want to go pick it up, we've got to deal with Kroger and a bunch of independent pharmacies, so you can do local pickup too. And that's just changed people's lives. We've taken medications that there's a dude used to play for Indiana where I went to college, right? Was in a horrible car accident, and he got a hold of me and said, Mark, I lost my insurance. I got to take this new drug, droxidopa. They're going to charge me $10,000 a month. I'm like, let me check to see if we got it. $61
oh my God,
a month.
KD, my fault, bro.
So, I mean, people are out there going to rip you off, and so that's why we started this company, and it's just been crushing it.
People really weren't familiar with this problem until they saw like the Martin Shkreli stuff going on, the Pharma Bro, and he's charging 5,000% for
I mean, a drug that was like $75, he marked up to $7,500. You know, and I'm like, if this motherfucker can raise the price like that, then I must be able to cut it because something's missing in this business, right? And so that's what we've done. And so, like, now because it's transparent, people are taking that information and going to the government and going, why are you paying? Like, there was just a deal that came out the other day that said if the Medicare bought their heart medications from Cost Plus Drugs, they'd save, you know, $1.3 billion a year. If they bought urology drugs, only like 7 of them, another $1.9 billion a year. I mean, it just adds up, because now there's finally transparency. So if you know anybody out there that's taking any medications, you, your aunt, your uncle, your dad, your granddad, whatever, check out Cost Plus Drugs, because that fear of walking into the pharmacy and not knowing what you're going to have to pay, no more. You'll know exactly what you're paying.
Love that. Game changer.
Yes, sir. It has been. I'm proud of it. I'm really
It's
proud
a
of it.
problem that disproportionately affects poor people too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Specifically something that it
Yeah, because there's tens of millions of people with no insurance, or they have shitty ass insurance, right? With high deductibles, high copays, whatever. And so you walk in terrified, and like it happens time and time again where I'll get an email. Like I'm used to people walking up to me on Shark Tank, walking up to me about the Mavs or whatever. Now I've had people walk up and just hug me and start crying because my grandmother used to spend $3,000 a month. Now it's $18. You know, and that's life changing. And so, you know, check it out, because we truly can save you a lot of money.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like, it seems like that's like your main thing you're focusing on. Is it the main thing because it's like that's your like biggest investment, or do you think it's like the change and effect?
That's game changing. Yeah, to be able to impact. You know, look, it's 2023 in the United States of America, and there's people like you were saying with uninsurance, poor people that don't know if they can afford their medications. Don't know, you know, are they going to have to ration their medicine and choose between medicine and eating or rent? Right? That's fucked up.
Right.
And so I'm proud of
that's
this.
how it is. I'm like my neighborhood growing up. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Like those areas, like you're forced with decisions of like, all right, cool. I got this. I got high blood pressure. I have this. I have to pick now. I have to pick.
And it hasn't changed.
Yeah, and it hasn't changed. So that's like what he's doing. Like, man,
I appreciate you guys asking.
It's these areas.
No, it's like a predatory thing.
From,
like
you're
people
from,
come
you know,
in,
where people same areas, but like it's game changer.
Yeah, people are trying to make money off that. People are trying to make a brick off.
No, that's the only people
suffering.
you make money from. Those type of people. Yeah, because they're not educated. And, you know,
they just don't know where to check. Yeah, they don't know. You know, you go into the doctor, you go into a local clinic, and they say you need this high blood pressure medicine, and they don't say this is what it's going to cost. They say, what pharmacy do you want to go to, and that's it, right? And then you show up there. I mean, you hear story after story of, I was at the pharmacy and this person in front of me found out the price and couldn't afford their meds, right, and had to walk away. It's fucked up.
No, you're a real dude for that, but there's the duality of being a real dude and also owning an NBA team. And there has to be crazy shit that comes with that.
Man, that's a nice segue, man. That is
you see how he merged that together. You see how he got a gift. He's got a gift.
But so I read a story a while ago.
It's true.
And it said that you had a trade lined up, went to an open run, maybe ran your mouth about the trade a little bit.
Oh, when I first bought the team.
The story is true then.
It's true. What was the story?
It's a club I still play pickup at, right? Yeah. And so I just bought the team. It was a premier club in Dallas. It was like one of only 3 gyms that had a court. And so I would go up there and play ball. And so I just bought the team, and everybody's asking me what's it all about. And I'm like, yo, we're trading for Chris Gatling. We're getting him from the Denver Nuggets. And one of the motherfuckers calls up somebody that they knew, unbeknownst to me. And then all of a sudden I get a call, said, this deal is dead because you ran your mouth.
Wow.
And I'm like,
who could they have called? Were they calling like ESPN?
No. This wasn't like that back then.
You know?
No, it was just somebody at the Nuggets, right?
Knew somebody.
Yeah, knew somebody. And then they started talking, and then it leaked.
That information.
Yeah, they passed that on. It leaked. And so Chris Gatling, you know, he was on the Mavs, left, and he was like, we're going to bring him back. We needed a big who could score, and it didn't happen.
Imagine how many championships you'd have if you had Chris Gatling. You know what I mean?
Don't rip on Chris Gatling. He was an all-star when he was with the Mavs. We didn't have many of those before I bought the team.
I'm saying it would have changed the course of the franchise.
I have a question, and I've been debating to ask you this, but I have to ask you this, right? I categorize it as human versus business when it comes to the NBA, right? And the first one was contracts. You know a guy, you own a team, obviously. A guy scores, 17 points a game, right? But he has vices.
Right.
You know, he might, party, he might gamble, he might.
Yep, everybody's got something.
Everyone has something, right? Obviously, this information gets to you because obviously you own the team. Does that factor in how much you give someone?
Yes, 100%.
It's game day, and we have a legendary matchup today.
The High Noon Game Day pack flavors pear and cranberry.
We also have the black cherry and the grapefruit, so it's really anyone's game.
Wow, Dave goes with a hidden game day pack play.
Nothing goes with college football season like the High Noon Game Day pack.
100%. Because it's a team, right? And so if a guy smokes too much, right? I mean, no lie, I've traded guys because he smoked too much. Because if you guys no, not Chris, not Chris, but yeah, for sure. Because you know it's like so teams get their own culture, right? And if you got some young dudes on there that are just figuring out, smoke some, but don't know what the team culture is, right? Or the NBA culture is, and you got one dude that's just, you know, you walk down the hall in the hotel, and you know he's on that floor, and there's no doubt about it. And then all of a sudden, these other kids start picking up on it, and that's kind of, you see them coming out of their room, you see them, you know, a little bit red-eyed coming to practice all of a sudden. You don't want them going down that road. I mean, everybody smokes, right? It's not about that. But there's smoking, there's how powerful the shit you're doing is, and then there's how much you do. And if you cross, you know, if you get past that level where, and there's a chance that you might drag somebody with you, you got to look at the bigger picture, right? That's just not the culture. You know, within limits, great. And then the other side of it is like, the NBA just stopped testing now after COVID, right? So you guys can get tested all the time, and there are guys that that they don't announce it when they fail a drug test, right? You get a couple of chances. And if you know a guy has already failed, whatever it was, I forget, twice, and this is in the past, right? And one more time, and you know they haven't cut back at all, you're thinking about that too.
So it just has to turn into a tough love situation where you're like, hey, I might like you as a guy, but this is a business decision.
And you tell them, right? You try to tell them. Not everybody's going to listen, right? Most guys will say, yeah, I know I got a problem. I'll cut back, you know, if I can get some help. You know, most guys will. Some guys just, whatever, I've been in the league 10 years, this is who I am.
Where does that information come from? Like, are there private investigators?
No, you don't have to investigate.
Like,
no, this is like.
So there's no private investigating. You're not like following
do
these
you know when you hang out with somebody who smokes a lot? Do you know?
Yeah, I guess you kind of smell it on them, and they probably think there's a private investigator because they're so paranoid.
10 things of Febreze, you know.
What about coach? What about coach firing?
Coach firing?
You love a coach.
Yeah.
Coach put in a lot of work. Coach has done great. Not where we want to go.
Yeah, that's tough. Hiring a coach is the hardest part of owning a sports team, professional sports team. That's the hardest. It's not even close. Because there's no dumb coaches.
Right.
Yeah. And so when, for whatever reasons, you need a coach, nobody walks in the door unprepared. They're going to be able to say, this is wrong with your team. Here's what I would do. Here's how I'll deal with it. Or, you know, you're rebuilding. Here's how I'll develop culture. Here's how I'll work with guys, right? So that's the hardest job. I've been lucky. I haven't had that many coaches. I mean, we had Rick for, 11, 12 years. Yeah, Rick. But he's an acquired taste, right? He's an acquired taste. Rick is a super, super smart guy who's one of the best on-court strategists ever.
He has the best pick. I don't see. This is basketball.
Talk to me.
You might not know a lot.
I'm going to learn something.
Okay. His numbers in pick and roll are by far the best numbers ever. Like, it's him, and then it's like somebody else. Like, not even close. His offense is not even close from the best offense ever to be generated in the NBA.
And he'll try anything, right? He'll try anything. Like, year we won way back when, I remember it was a preseason game against Chicago. And I'm like, Rick, can we just play zone the whole game? Because the thing about back then, nobody practiced against the zone. And so if you ran a zone, it always caught him off guard. And you can always get back in a game, expand the lead. He's like, that's a good idea. Let's try it. So we ran it. And over the course of that season, we had a great season. And we would throw in zone, get to the finals against Miami, throw a zone against Bron. All you had to do is get him to hesitate, one or two, because Bron's always going to make the right play. He always wants to make the right basketball play. And when you're facing a zone and you have to read what they're doing, is it matchup, going, whatever it may be, that slowed him down. That gave us an edge.
I would take pride in that. I would be like, that's my zone.
Well, yeah, and I did.
Yeah, you were letting everybody know.
What about trades?
Trades is the hardest, right? Trades is hard. I've cried when I've traded somebody, yeah. I mean, guys that are really, really close to me, particularly, early on.
Who had you crying?
I'm not going to even go there because he knows.
That's love.
Yeah, no, it's hard, man.
From a player, like,
it's
to
hard.
hear that's love.
It's hard because everybody knows it's a business and everybody uses that excuse. And I always tell myself, he just got transferred to another department, right? Just got transferred to another office, still in the NBA. But, a trade's an admission that you need something or you did something wrong. And I mean, you've been there, right? And so and you get a sense when a team's grooving, you're not going to make a trade, right? When it's all working and things working together, you're not going to make a trade if you're at the top. But when it's not, the guy knows, right? And everybody's looking around, but it doesn't mean you feel, you don't feel as good about the guy, right? And there's family and guys who just had a kid and all that shit, man. It hurts. It's hard.
You're sending someone to somewhere maybe they don't, the weather might suck. Or like,
I don't care about the fucking weather, right? But I care about their families and I care about them, and there's just been times when it's like, fuck.
Of course.
Yeah, heartbreaking.
It's part of the business, though.
It is the business, right? Because everybody's out there to win. Or sometimes you break up a team, right? Because you thought we had a year where I thought, okay, we're going to be good, and we sucked. I'm 23 years. I think I've had 4 losing seasons, right? And so one of those, leading into our rebuild, I thought, okay, we got a chance to win 50, but we didn't come close, and it was time.
Yeah, and team building seems like it's getting more complicated, especially with the new CBA, and you're seeing it in some cities where guys are expecting a max contract, and
it ain't happening.
Yeah, you might not be able to give them the max contract.
Every time there's a new CBA, everything changes.
Yeah, they left the middle guys out of this one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, right? Because
all the middle guys are just ripped apart.
Yeah, but so a couple things there, right, Pat? Because the mid-level went up. They added an $8 million room exception, right, for a team with cap. And by the way, that was my idea. I was in that room saying, if you got cap room, we should be rewarding that. Give them, I wanted them to call the Cuban exception. They wouldn't do it. To start up at 4, now it's his name.
This is his
right? Oh, yeah, I'll get the things I fuck with. But, yeah, so I think the guys who are definite middle will be okay. It'll be the guys that are just under, not quite sure if they're max, whereas before you might have gotten a max and just keep the guy happy and make it all work, and you could trade him at some point if it didn't work. But now that's going to be tougher. You got to be real max to get max.
And how do you pitch that to a guy without hurting his feelings?
You don't.
No.
But every time there's a collective bargaining change, somebody gets pissed off. Something happens. And now with the second tier, right, where if you go above 192, whatever it is this year, or starting next year, your draft pick gets moved to the 30th in the first round, or you lose it after that, and you can't make trades, and you can only sign minimum guys. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, there's a lot more balance that kind of needs to be struck, where it's like you look at Kyrie. I mean, he could get 272 or whatever his ceiling is, but then you look at James Harden. It's like he expected a certain number, and then maybe the number isn't there. Daryl Morey's not giving it to him at this point. It seems like it's going to have some superstars, faces of the league, a little bit annoyed to the point where maybe do they force trades? Do they demand trades?
It's going to be harder,
in
though.
A sticky situation.
Yeah, but it's not even so much can they demand, it's where can they go? Because if with the new CBA, it's not a hard cap. You can go above it, but there's a lot of penalties that come with going above that. And so in the past, like when we traded for Kyrie, it added $90 million onto my luxury tax. Right. Okay. Let's see what we got. Right. Because me, I like to win, and it didn't work this year, but last year hopefully it worked this year. But this now, because of that second apron, all your team building thing changes. So it's not about, okay, am I willing to pay the extra salary? It's more about what does this do to my team building? And if one guy gets hurt, you're stuck.
Yeah, it fucks you over. It kind of puts you in a tough spot.
You're stuck.
Yeah, it's not an enviable
Very
position.
shocking you made that trade.
Why?
The fit, I didn't know if it was going to fit.
Yeah.
Them together, they both.
Well, a lot of people don't think it, so when you look at last year, we had issues that had nothing to do with Kyrie or Luka playing together. When they played together, I was just reading something. There were like 900 possessions that they played together, and they were 60% net effective field goal rate plus 4-point whatever, top 5 combo in the league when they played together, just between injuries and everything. And we just didn't have a team that was committed to the roles, right? If like the year before when we went to the Western Conference Finals.
Y'all was fucking locked the fuck in, boy.
For sure, right?
You could tell. Yeah.
Everybody knew their role. Everybody just played their role perfectly.
Yeah.
This past year, that wasn't the case. And it wasn't Kyrie or Luka. They knew their roles, right? But once other guys start playing for themselves or not playing for the team, every mistake that you can possibly have is just magnified to no end. So we made some changes, a lot of changes this year, on and off the court. And
I like what y'all did, though.
Yeah, I mean, we got younger, we got longer.
I like it.
And, you know, the other thing is, like, when you're on the outside looking at somebody like Kai, right? I didn't know him at all. And I just read the same stuff. And you see a dude bounce from team to team to team, you get some perceptions, right? This is your perception of him. But then I start talking to people.
It's game day, and we have a legendary matchup today.
The High Noon Game Day pack flavors pear and cranberry.
We also have the black cherry and the grapefruit, so it's really anyone's game.
Wow, Dave goes with the hidden Game Day pack play.
Nothing goes with college football season like the High Noon Game Day pack.
Before we did the deal, everybody loved him. And Luke was like, we need somebody else. And he's like, you know, when you talk to people, people love Kai. And you watch after a game, guys will trade jerseys, this and that. People will just walk up and hug Kai, right? Not just like, thanks, you know. It's like,
That's his guy.
oh, right?
Yeah.
And we'll spend time and talk. And now that I've gotten to know Kai a lot better, that's who he is, right? Kyrie wants to think about things. Kyrie wants to, you know, connect to people and connect to his history and know who he is. And, you know, he wants to just take it to the next level personally. But he recognizes that this is his game right here, right? Because if he gets bounced again, you know, that's like, can you be a Hall of Famer when you bounce to 5 teams, even though you've got Hall of Fame
People
talent?
start writing the narrative about you.
Right, and they already have, right?
Yeah.
So he knows, and we've talked about it, right? Kyrie is a super smart guy, and he knows it's Luka's team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is Luka's team, and so he can play 2, and when Luka's out of the game, you do the same thing, right? Yeah, like what's Pat Bev do? What you need me to be point? I'm point. You need me to just guard and run to the corner? Guard and run to the corner. Luka's that good that when Luka's in there, Kai needs to run to the corner, he'll run to the corner. If they double him and he needs to come to the foul line, just get a bounce pass and play 4-on-3. What's better than that? And if we do that, and Jimmy Goldstein, I did not want to see you that way.
Yes.
I did not want to see you that way.
Hey, we didn't make this up.
What's going on, sir?
How are you, brother?
Fucking Jimmy, bro.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is my first time here.
Adam, good to see you, sir.
Hey, buddy, I know. You over here. My fault.
An absolute pleasure. Your house is beautiful. Yeah, we got to get that tour.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for coming
What
down.
an absolute legend. Looking magnificent.
How many people are upstairs? That's what I want to know. You're not here by yourself, are you? Are you here by yourself? Oh, I'm shocked.
Oh, he's just rolling solo like that?
That legend took a little bit of a ding right there.
He's lying.
No girls here.
I saw your Instagram yesterday. I saw who was up on there. All right, guys, let's talk for a second about body armor. You heard us
I
talking
really don't want to talk about it. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it, but me,
Best probably. No, so first off,
Yes.
Kyrie Irving,
Yes.
best probably one of the best offensively skilled point guards to ever play the game.
Best ball handler.
No, offensively skilled, like has the best footwork, probably besides Kobe Bryant's him.
Right.
Right. Luka Doncic. I've been on paper saying this. I don't give a fuck what no one says.
well,
He is one of the coldest motherfuckers to ever pick up a basketball.
he is.
And it looks so effortless. You
It
look
is
what he's doing
effortless.
in Europe right
It
now.
is
He's going
effortless.
past guys in
If you
slow
just
mo.
pulled him out, right, just use some technology and put a different face on, you think this is just some old dude at the club playing basketball.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go fast, but he's so strong and skilled, it's
He
insane.
dissects the game better than anyone else I've ever played. And I played in Europe.
Yeah.
Mind you, to me, some of the guys who dissect the game the best come from Europe.
So you feel like he has a quintessentially European game, or it's a kind of a hybrid with the NBA game?
His game is all European. He just found a way. He's just a bigger European. You feel me? Like a point guard he usually come out that's from, you know, Europe is, you know, Pablo
5'10".
Pergioni,
Yeah,
Horortez, the guy who
Right,
used to play for
Arroyo,
Denver,
right, yeah.
you know. they're, I don't know,
Yeah,
6'1",
Cambazo and
right. You don't get a guy 6'7", 6'8", like that.
Linebacker size.
I mean, he's huge.
Now he's down to about two. I don't know exact number, but 6'7", 240, let's say.
Yeah.
And can move. And he's been working so hard this summer.
Yeah. He's a beast, bro. He's a beast.
So
I love Luka.
When you have that conversation with him where he's like, we need another guy, is that a conversation you initiate, he initiates, or you're just like sliding up next to him at practice and a small talk type of thing?
A little bit of all the above.
Yeah.
But, Nico's finding his way, and Jay Kidd, obviously, and Luka have got a great relationship. So, we all talk. And it's not, just my decision or just Luka's decision. It's always a group decision.
Open dialogue.
Yeah, open dialogue. And but we knew we needed to do something because even before the trade, we were like 29 and 26. Now, the Western Conference is insane, right? So we were in like 5th place, but it was just we didn't have a team. We just looked at it. But a lot of it goes back to what are the roles, right? And people talk about Kai and Luka fitting together. Kai knows it's Luka's team. Kai knows how Luka plays. And if Kai is so skilled, great basketball players are great basketball players, right? And they know how to play off of anybody else. And he's not a 19-year-old Kai anymore. He's not a 25-year-old Kai anymore who, him and Deion Waiters used to go at it on the court, right? And they were on the same team.
Right.
But now he's a mature 31-year-old Kai. And he wants to win. And that makes all the difference in the world.
I almost went to that. I wish I was.
When was this?
Yeah, we talked about
trade.
Yeah.
We talked about a bunch. Yeah, because you were close with Chandler, right? And so that's how I got to know Pat. And so Chandler's not quiet about anything. And so he would always get that fit.
Yeah. What would have made Pat a fit in Dallas?
Well, the problem was like we got Rondo and that didn't work, but we still had Monte Ellis, and we thought we had a really good team, but then the next year that was the team where the next year after Rondo where it didn't work, right? And so there's no reason to bring Patrick Beverley into a rebuilding situation, right? Patrick's the closer, right? A guy you bring in to defend and help you get to the next level. That's what you've always taken pride in too. It just wasn't a fit.
Right. Yeah. It's always situational.
Life cycle for teams matter. You got to know where you are versus where you're trying to get to.
Yeah. Which part?
Great owners though, not. And it's different, obviously, because you have some owners that want now. I want now results. I'm going to pull this.
No, we all do, right? But
right.
But at some point, you got to realize
long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a dance that you have to play, and you have to, be looking in the future too. I feel like as we look at the future of the league, as we look at the future of the NBA and just the world, it seems like we're at this like weird turning point where we're feeling the effects of AI in a way that we have never felt the effects of AI. And Allen Iverson, jokes aside, what do you think about the future of AI as it's going to affect the NBA, the Mavericks? How is that part of the world going to affect this part of the world?
So not as much as you think. Like I'm really into all the tech side, right? I've machine learning, built small neural networks, all that stuff, so I can learn the technology. But what's happened since analytics started to become more popular, all teams have invested in it, and so there's not like one just superstar analytics person or team that you can just bring in to get a huge edge.
Right.
That's why now everybody does about the same thing. Maybe you send 2 guys to the offensive boards, and somebody else might say, okay, in that situation, you send 3 guys to the offensive boards. But those are, changes on the margin. In terms of like the chat GPTs of the world, you're not going to type in there saying, okay, what's my game plan to play the Bulls,
Right.
But on the customer service side, the fan side, yeah, there'll be a Mavs GPT where you can just put in and, and it'll answer questions about the Mavs, or, and the NBA will have its own NBA GPT where you can put in, okay, tell me about Pat Bev when he played for the Bulls in this game and what happened, and bring me up a video. So it'll be a utility for people to use, but it's not like here it comes and it's going to change the game of basketball.
It seems like in some ways it could help the game of basketball because as it frees up people's times, live events will be the things that are winning. And
always. I mean, that's what makes the game special, right? Right. When you walk into an arena and you feel the energy,
very different to watching.
So different. That's what makes sports the best, and the NBA the best. Even if it's not a great game, you're going to feel that energy, and the games that aren't as good have more kids there because you kind of, those are the games that you lower ticket prices and you bring the kids and they're screaming and yelling and everything. But what's really changed the game is social media, because kids, I don't know, Pat, if you agree, kids coming in are so much more skilled. Mm-hmm. So like 5, 6, 7 years ago, there'd always be one dude on the court that couldn't shoot, right? Even the second unit, right? Don't have to guard him.
No, not now.
Don't guard him, right? Everybody watches, because they see themselves on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, so, and everybody's commenting about what's wrong with their game, right? And then B, there's so many coaches that are just online, right? That if you wanted to work on your shot, you can just use an Instagram coach. But because everybody films everything, and even
what if I'm worried about switching phones?
How do I know about bad
apps? I'm worried about making who's growing up some, that there's so many skills coaches now.
It's almost like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, perfect way to do it. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
How's that?
It's. I see Steph Curry. I emulate Steph Curry. The guy I play with in high school emulates Steph Curry. The guy I play against emulates Steph Curry. Everyone at the park emulates Steph Curry. Why don't you have on Steph Curry? Okay, a whole version of Steph Curry. Oh, I like Luka. I'm Luka size. I'm not Luka size. I like what Luka does. 100%. I like his attitude. 100%. I want to be Luka. Now, a whole group of kids will be Luka. 100%. And they're striving against the kids that want to be Steph Curry. The only thing that's just doing is just making them.
Yeah, I mean, iron sharpens iron.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You see 10-year-old kids shoot a three and then run down the other way before seeing it.
I went to an Under Armour event under 19? What was that, in Atlanta? A high school event. The way these kids were playing in high school, I've never seen anything in my life.
Yeah.
They're so, like the next generation is so, you think Steph Curry and all those guys, hell of a talent. Like, this next generation, elites, boy. Elites. I'm talking about the combination of, the 6'8" guys who are naturally points. The undersized 5-mans that can shoot and are 7-foot athlete.
Did you ever lift weights coming up?
Yes, I had.
Oh, you did? Okay, well, you wanted to look good.
Yeah,
right?
I had to get up out Chicago, Mark.
When I was growing up, we didn't lift weights. We had ankle weights, right? That was our working out so we could jump higher. We wore ankle weights, and there was nobody, maybe a magazine here, a magazine there, and you watched one game a week. That was it. Everything else you just learned from your coach.
That's so true. That's true watching it too. I didn't even think about that. That is so true. So many kids watching it. It's so true. Yeah.
Now, there's so many ways to work out, and kids want to increase their verticals, and there's all these tools and everything that, because you can see them on social media and buy them on social media, kids get access to everything that even 10 years ago you didn't see.
That's true. Yeah.
If you let some people tell it, though, it seems like they look at kids who are 9 years old and pulling up from the logo and shooting. They're like, this is ruining basketball. Yeah, do you think that there's any element to that where it changes?
Listen, me and Steph Curry on the under 19 USA team, right? I think we placed second. We lost to Serbia. I don't know. It was me, him. I don't know. Mike Beasley, a whole bunch of guys. DeAndre Jordan, a ton of us. We were 19 years old, right? Steph Curry shooting a shot. He's missing all this time. Me and Johnny Flynn yo, Steph, shooting that shit.
Johnny Flynn, that's it.
Me and Johnny come on, Steph, bro, stop shooting that shit. Steph responds, bro, that's my shot. That's my shot. Wasn't going in. He was real skinny at the time, you know what I'm saying? But Pat, that's my shot. Shooting these high floaters, bro. You shoot the lane, bro. Then I don't know, 15 years, you Steph Curry. So it might not work in the beginning, but that's your game.
Well, that's what set guys apart
that's
too.
Your game.
Some guys learn the game, work the game.
Yeah.
Right. Some guys just create that mission. I'm getting up. I'm working on my game. I, watching video before I go to bed. Repeat, rinse and repeat. Right. Not every guy does that. Some guys, they just show up when coach tells them to show up, and they leave when practice is over. But the great ones, because they're there early and they're staying late and they're coming back at night. Watching Dirk, right? Luka now, he's getting it too. If things aren't falling, they're opening up the gym at night on the road, going into the gym that night before a regular season game, just to get back in rhythm.
What indicators do you look for in a guy to be like, okay, he has that thing before he's on your team? What was there something about his personality?
I wish there was a way.
Yeah.
You think you know,
right?
But you don't, because guys don't really change once they get into the league, but you don't know how agile they are to adapt. And you don't really know what their commitment is to the league. Because, look at you. I mean, Pat Bev's a perfect example. Under 19 team have to go to Europe. Right? Where'd you play? Ukraine?
Right.
Second division of Ukraine. And to bust your ass. Danny Green, same type of story, right? Where you get guys, Wesley Matthews, same type of story. Don't get drafted. Wesley, I don't think had to go overseas, but go overseas and you learn you got to do more. Whereas for most guys, they've just been so naturally talented and better than everybody else. They don't really have to work. They could do it athletically and, like we were just saying, guys that could score, they call them slashers, right? If they couldn't shoot, or maybe they were just defenders. That's just not going to fly anymore. Not going to fly. But to get back to your point, you look for their commitment to work. And what we do a lot more of now than when I first bought the team is talking not just to coaches that they played for, but the people around them, right? How hard do they work? When was the last time you took your boy into the gym, right? When was the last time he dragged you into the gym? Right? Send us a video or let's get a video of his workout because we want to know what the commitment is.
Yeah.
Because obviously if we're even thinking about you, you're talented. But if you're not going to work hard, like if it's the end of the first round, okay, flip a coin, right? Second round, flip a coin. Undrafted, wing it. But if you're top 10 in the first round, lottery in the first round, and you miss, that can set your team back.
Yeah, that's going to haunt you. That'll be part of your legacy.
6 years.
Yeah,
that really can set you back.
No.
and we missed many times.
And listen, I got a question though. Is it because you've been in it ages, like you've been in it so long? Is it sometimes where like someone's telling you like, oh, we should draft this guy, and you look at him like, no, we're gonna draft him. You got plenty of those conversations?
Yeah, or trade up. We're trying to trade up.
Okay, right.
So I'll tell you a quick story. Tyrese Halliburton.
Great.
We did everything we could to trade up and get him.
He's a great player.
Did everything we could. Now, obviously, Rick was our coach at the time. Rick goes to Indiana. What's the first deal he does?
Tyler Herman, let me get him. I love it. I told you I love Rick. I love Rick, bro.
Yeah, it's a brilliant move. I can't believe that Sacramento came up off of him.
Because where they were, and that opened the door for Fox, right?
Right, the crowded backcourt situation.
Well, I mean, it's just sometimes that door's got to open and the pressure's on where you're the number one guy.
And Sabonis was a big key to that too.
Yeah, because obviously that's a different skill set.
Yeah, that does change things.
Tyrese Halliburton, I love him too. I love him.
He's incredible.
Yeah,
he's
him and
really
Luka
good.
together. Oh my God, that would have been different.
It's just hard to get him out of the starting lineup on this international team.
He plays the game the right way.
Yeah.
It's funky looking, but fucking so what? Everyone has that.
You could tell he's passionate because of how upset he was when he got traded from the Kings. He was like, I wanted to be Mr. Sacramento. Like, that makes you love a guy, even if you're not rooting for those teams.
I can feel a player the moment we step on the court. Like, I can go free throw line. You know me, everything I do is very strategic. Like, I can go free throw line, bunk a guy, I don't know, touch his rib cage. Okay, man, it's flabby. Okay, it's not as tight. Okay, he hasn't been working out this summer. All right, cool. Or like touch arm. Okay, man, he's softer than what I thought.
For sure.
Sure.
And look, NBA game is no different than a pickup game, right?
Sizing dudes up.
Yeah, of course, right? Okay, you got to guard him. Don't have to guard him, right? Can he shoot? Not shoot. And you're peeking down the other end of the court when the guys are working out before a game if you haven't seen somebody.
Yeah.
It's
a vibe. No, the NBA is a whole vibe.
I know you're still playing pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just running all the time?
Not all the time, man. I kind of messed up my Achilles, so I've been working out to get that back. Yeah, my calf.
That's brutal. All right, guys, let's talk about New Amsterdam vodka. You know what time it is, dude. You know that we're in a spot like this. It has me craving an alcoholic beverage, but one of the highest quality, one that's rated 93 points, one that's 5 times distilled, and one that's 3 times filtered. And yeah, I'm talking about New Amsterdam vodka.
Hey, listen, I fuck with New Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam vodka.
I love me some New Amsterdam vodka. The moment we both took that shot on at the crib in Cali, remember that?
Yes.
Ever since,
it launched us into a vortex. New Amsterdam vodka is born from an uncompromising passion for great vodka. I enjoy it. He enjoys it.
You can get it anywhere.
The billionaires enjoy it. No matter where you are. He probably has some at his bar over there.
Probably just had something to drink of it.
Yeah, he probably. I thought I smelled a little bit off of him, and man, does it smell good. Making great vodka is a passion. New Amsterdam is inspired by those who stay true to who they are. Guys like Pat Bev.
Guys like Rome.
Guys like me.
Love.
And guys like you.
Love game.
So that's why New Amsterdam Vodka is the official vodka of Barstool Sports. Find your wins with New Amsterdam Vodka.
I've watched a TV show one of my favorite TV shows called Billions.
Yeah,
I mean,
my guy.
Like, I'm in love with it.
It's a great show.
Amazing.
It's a great show. Yeah.
If you had to pick one, Bobby Axelrod or Michael Prince?
Oh, Bobby.
On Bigo, you can watch the freshest content from the coolest streamers.
Bigo.
Wait, I'm not a watcher of the show. Break down these two guys.
Axe is my guy.
In the know Bobby. He's a beast.
Yeah, Bobby's a killer.
So is it like that? Like, obviously, you have a ton of wealth. Is it like that?
No. There's guys like that.
Okay.
There's guys like that. Like, for me, I always just looked at it. I'm the luckiest motherfucker on the planet. And the amount of money I have I liked what I was when I was broke. The amount of money I have. Shouldn't change, and my friends, everything's still the same. Like, for me, I was just looked at it. I'm the luckiest motherfucker on the planet, and the amount of money I have I liked what I was when I was broke. The amount of money I have shouldn't change, and my friends, everything's still the same. So I don't go into like, let me just fuck with you, because I got a lot of money, right? I try to like just be chill, but I've been around those guys, right, who just like, well, let me just show you who I am. Let me just show you what I'm like. Bring it.
This 2K24.
This is like, it's just most of the like guys richer than me types like that I've met are chill, right? They're cool. And then you get like the top 5 or 10 that are just in their own world. Like people coming in security everywhere and all that. So.
What's the thing that like feels best mentally about just not having to worry about money?
Just that you don't have to worry about it, right? I've been there where, the bill collectors were calling and the credit cards were cut up and, had a hole in my car floorboard. And literally, like, when I got to Dallas, one of the cars that I got, I'm driving, my car was dead.
No, it's not dead.
One, right? I'm driving with my buddies in Farmers Branch in Dallas, and there's like a decent Trans Am on the side of the road. I'm like, yo, I know how bill collectors work, and I know what this is. Pull over. I bet you the pink slip is right there on the car in the glove compartment, and I'm gonna see if it's there, right? This is the absolute truth. Go look at the car, right? And there's a package from the bank. And so I called the bank and said, I found your car. Would you let me take over the payment? What? Wow. For real. That's
crazy. Kind of psycho.
Hey, no, that's intelligent though.
It's super intelligent.
It's desperate, right? The power of broke.
You never know how tough and strong you are until you have to be tough and strong, bro. For real.
Yeah, that is tough. But so then what was the moment where you were like, all right, I'm not going to have to worry about this shit anymore. I don't have to pull over and like check for the deed of the car anymore.
Well, after I sold my first company, that's when things started to change. Got the check, and me and my buddies went to this old style steakhouse. And back then, they used to have these, like Frank Sinatra steakhouses, they would have these plugs for phones, like old school phones that you would just plug into the wall so somebody can make a phone call, right, from there. And I'm fucked up, right? I am just out of my mind. But my goal was to have a lifetime pass on American Airlines. I'm like, you guys sell lifetime passes? They're like, let me connect you to the air pass department. I'm like, oh shit, right? So, like, I wasn't functional then, but the next day I'm lying in bed trying to recover, and I called up the number, and they had this thing called the air pass. And so I think I spent $125,000 so that I could just walk up to American Airlines, and I could take me and anybody else anywhere in the world, anytime I wanted for the rest of my life.
What the fuck? Why is he at center?
That is.
It was insane.
So it still lasts? It's not like
I actually,
you want to go somewhere?
I gave it to my dad when my dad passed. They're only supposed to give it one time.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was sorry to hear that. Thank you. I gave it to a friend that I worked with because otherwise I was paying the bills for him to travel for me and everything. And so he has it and uses it now. but it was the best. It was the best. It's like I stayed out here in LA for 2 years after I sold that first company, right? And I was living on Mulholland Highway, and like Keanu Reeves was my next door neighbor, and I was just living the life. And I'd go out to the clubs. I'm like, let's go to Vegas. What? How are you going to go to Vegas? You're not going to get a. I'm like, let's just go. And we would just go right to the LAX, right? Go to American Airlines. Here's my air pass. Let's go.
For $125. I can't imagine what that would cost today. But money costs different, money costs what it costs. Like you
they
bought
stopped
the team
selling.
for what, $298 or something? $285 from Ross Perot?
Yeah.
That's such a crazy, Ross Perot, like.
Well, let me just talk about that. Like when I bought the team for $285, everybody thought I was crazy. And I was in a lot of respects because I didn't care, right? I just made all this money, and it was like I'm a huge hoops fan, right? And it was just like, this is insane. Everybody, I didn't really negotiate, and they're like, you're an idiot, you pay too much. Now it seems like I'm smart, right? But for the first 10 years, like I bought it in 2000, realized like in 2010, the NBA tried to sell the New Orleans franchise. Nobody wanted it. And the NBA had to take over the New Orleans franchise and run the team. That was the whole CP3 to LA. Yeah. Yeah.
So why was that nobody wanted it?
Because nobody wanted to own a team. This is before the big TV deals and everything started to happen. And so teams were losing money. A lot of teams were losing money. And most teams were losing money. And so things have changed a lot since then because of the big TV deals.
Right. And the prices of these franchises are skyrocketing. It's like exponential growth. Like you look like a genius for making that deal that some people would have thought was like a luxury purchase at the time.
Yeah, everybody thought I was an idiot. It was the highest price ever paid for an NBA team at the time.
And we're going to see $10 billion franchises soon.
I hope so.
All right, Pat, let's take a second from this pod and talk about straight talk, okay?
Right.
For a little bit of and available. Pat, I don't know if you know this. Maybe like 10 years ago, Mark did a video with Dave and a bunch of people.
Yeah,
and
1% of it.
Yeah, he wanted. What do you want? Dave wanted.
He told me to think about it. Yeah, think about it.
And then Mark asks, so what do you do?
But he diagnosed it as the hard dick business, which is like that follows them around. It's like, oh, you're in the hard dick business, which is.
And I was right? It's exactly what happened.
But he's been able to flip that.
That deal, that deal.
For dollar back?
That's what I was like. No, that facial expression.
But it's funny because. First, kudos to him, right? Being in the right place, right time. And then he sold that stock, lickety split. But now, I don't know what the operating numbers are. But now, running a business is one thing when you just got paid and it's just like, I just got paid, and he's buying pizza and he's running around having fun. And it's another thing where, I got to run this shit.
You got to be lean again and hungry again.
You just got to run it. Yeah. Running a business is not easy, even when it's doing well, and it's harder when it's not doing well. And when it's a super competitive industry, but the CEO, the woman that's CEO of Barstool, she's smart. Erica's smart. I did her podcast, and she's the real deal. She's smart.
Yeah, real deal. We had her on our pod. She's the real deal.
Yeah, she's smart.
She's a gangster. She's one. She can walk into a room and command it instantly, not by because she's a woman.
And that's one of her super strengths, right? Yeah, that's a superpower because being a woman and in the hard dick business, then you've got to really stand out and you really got to be solid and be able to back up anything you say. And you've got to have the confidence just to look somebody in the eye and walk away.
Yeah, she's a killer for sure.
Yeah.
I want to pivot right now. Basketball term for you guys. Keep it fresh.
Foot to the floor. Yeah, okay.
Good one.
I want to ask you a question about soft power. Soft power can exist in a lot of ways, like the government of Thailand putting Thai restaurants all over the United States, and then suddenly people want to visit Thailand. Or it could work in the way of...
Is that true?
Yeah, that was an intentional operation by the government.
Man, that's smart.
It's there's not proportionate Thai restaurants to the amount of Thai people in the United States. It's a...
no, see, come here and learn something new.
Soft power. But then soft power is used in other ways.
The General gives you a break when you need it. And that's why we're giving you a break from this ad.
It's like Saudi magnates spending billions of dollars on the best golfers and soccer players in the world to kind of sports wash the way that they're perceived internationally. When you look at like the kind of diaspora of the NBA,
look at all these big words.
So his mom and dad are like rolling down like genius. Like his dad gave him like math problems for his brother.
And I work at Barstool Sports, so you know that
like geniuses. Like,
I'm not mad at you. I think it's great.
But you look at the globalization of the NBA. How do you think that has contributed to the United States soft power? And you think that's a good thing, or you think it's a bad thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, if there's a 7-footer in Germany growing up right now, he's thinking basketball. She's thinking basketball. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they weren't thinking basketball, right? The dream team was soft power, to your definition, that turned the sport around globally. Now, with streaming everywhere, like, did you really pay attention to the World Cup 15 years ago when you were a kid? No. Now you're paying attention, right? You're watching it. Streaming has made all the difference. And so, you know, going to China, we get some shit on it, but the reality is they're paying their money to us and taking our product to them. And I agree with Adam and David Stern before him. That's soft power in that you create good vibes about the United States of America and our athletes.
Yeah, sports can be one of the best diplomatic tools.
It absolutely is. I mean, going back to Nixon and ping pong, etc.
Right. I mean, the Olympics in general.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a way to. We always try to rally around our athletes when they have our flag on their chest, right? And I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, it seems like it's completely changed things. You like James Harden goes to China, and people are mobbed. Like everything that he's selling sells out immediately. He can put a message out there, and like his message will get to the world like immediately. You know,
it's not just China, right? The Philippines. Have you been down there? It's the most insane basketball country.
They just did Austin Reeves. Oh my God,
it's insane.
Mobbed them.
It's crazy, and or shoe deals that these guys are getting these shoe deals from different countries. Like it's a way that the game
is there an NBA team when it's I'm a pivot. That's basketball terms again.
Oh yeah.
You
got pen?
Is there when you make trades? I don't want you to say the team. Of course not.
Is there a team we won't deal with?
No. Is it a team where you like? Oh yeah, come on, let's deal with them.
Oh yeah, all the time.
That's what
let's go. The general manager goes, we got to call from so. Let's go.
To smoke this team.
Love that. No. And in the reverse, is it teams that you don't want to deal with?
Rarely. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, at some point you just gotta say it's just better for our team. Where it comes down to is the ones that are hard is if they're in your conference and you're like, okay, will this make them too good, right? Does this make their team better than the trade makes us competitively? And short term versus long term. And that's where the hard decision is. Maybe today, but we think this kid's got talent, right? And we get better. And so the hardest part about all this is balancing the short term versus long term. And, we traded, we got two good kids, Omax and Derek Lively, and we think they're going to be good. But you know what it's like with rookies. You don't know until you know.
Yeah, where does that information come from when you're figuring out that a GM, for lack of a better word, is a sucker? Where you're like, you're looking at other trades he's made, or you're listening to the offer he's saying, or like, how do you paint that picture about someone? And be like,
well, because you kind of know, what they're saying and what they're asking for. Like, people would always look at me, let's take his money. And I'd be like, okay, you want my cash? I'll write you the check. I don't care. I'll give you the $3 million. Just make me better. That's all I cared about. And now it's $5 million, whatever. And so, but the game has changed a lot in terms of ownership, because now there are more ownership groups. When I first came in, it was a bunch of old guys that used to just yell at me and scream at me, don't do this, don't do that. And now there's like, the owner owns, the board of governors owns 15, 20, 25%, and he's got a group of people that each have different skills, and that's kind of smart in a lot of ways, right? But it's just different.
Totally. Yeah, it's a wild landscape that we're looking at right now with the NBA. Like it really is.
It's a good time to be an NBA player.
Is it?
It is.
It's probably the best time to be an NBA player.
No.
You look at contracts like
it's going to go down, but then go back up again. That's just how it is.
You think it's going to go down?
It's going to go. I mean, not down, but it's going to go up more. And in order for something
The
to go
game
up
gets
more, it has
better.
to go down. Yeah.
When players, it's never been harder for a kid who dreams about playing in the NBA to play in the NBA. Whereas, 15 years ago, to point Pat Bed made earlier, if you were 6'8" and could do something, anything,
right,
you were in the league.
No.
Right? If you could rebound, yeah, come on. Right? If you could shoot, you didn't even have to be fast, right? Just stand in the
Just a
corner.
good video dribbling in front of a chair.
Right,
like,
right.
Probably get you drafted.
Yeah, right. You had handles at 6'8", and you can get your team into your offense. And as long as you can defend some or rebound some, yeah, come on. Not anymore, man. That's not going to be enough. There's so many 6'8" dudes that.
And you got to have 40 clip. That's a thing. All that shit you're doing, you have to be able to burn that bitch. You have to be able to shoot that
40 from 3.
You got to be 39 at least. Now 38 at least.
We'll get there, or have a path to get there, right?
You know what I'm saying?
And like you said earlier, everything is on tape, so you really don't have an excuse for a bad shooting form. It's like you see what you look like.
Well, you don't know what you grew up with, right? So if you're 18 coming into the league now and you started playing when you were 8, 10 years ago, you didn't have all that stuff. But guys going forward, they're going to have all that stuff.
It is, yeah. It's going to be, you said it as you're looking at these young guys at this Under Armour.
And now, like, all teams have got development coaches. Yeah. When I first came into the league, right, I looked at the Mavs, and I just bought them. I'm like, we spend more money on computer and software support than we do in developing players. So I told Nelly, our general manager, and coach, I'm like, go to former Mavs that you think have got skill, any one of them, and offer them a job. So every single one of our guys has got a development coach. And we had like 10 coaches. Normally there were 3 back then. And we had like 10 coaches. And every fucking owner was just torching me to David Stern. Torching me because, like, I got to keep up now. I got to keep up. And so the whole thing of development coaches now is just like, when you get there, there's going to be somebody who's going to give you
11 motherfuckers wrong.
Yeah.
And
we have when I got in the league, it wasn't like that.
No, we got interns now, too, to rebound for you all the time, so you don't call a coach to come work out, right?
Damn, it's that many people.
Yeah,
but
I didn't know you started. That's dope. Hey,
Chip Engelland, the guy was a shooting coach. Comes up to me every time I see him. Thank you for my job. Thank you for my job.
That's gangster. Yeah.
It's keeping up with the Joneses type of thing, or the same reason why Alabama is getting a new football facility every year. You need to have those intangibles, and fans might not think about that. Like when Pat signs in Philly, like he gets a certain number of nights at the Ritz-Carlton. Like I'm not thinking about that as a fan, but it's like these are the small things that the owner is doing for the players.
But it's all about
gratitude.
If a guy gets better, the guy gets paid, one way or the other, or he stays in the league, right? And if I can make somebody better, our team gets better too. And if I have the culture of development, everything gets better. And so, when I first got in, it was just like, this is insane, right? It's all about how good these guys play, and it's not 1965 anymore. Let's do something.
Hey, I could tell by the way you piss a lot of people off on the NBA.
I had owners yelling at me.
I've been around you an hour, and I could already tell.
Oh, my God. I had owners, like old school owners that are dead and gone now, in Board of Governors meeting, yelling. I had one dude, you motherfucker, you've never done a fucking thing in the NBA. Shut the fuck up and sit down.
Oh, my God. I could tell.
And then I called him by the wrong. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to tell you what. I called him by the wrong name. Which pissed him off even more because I didn't know who he was.
No, I could tell in the dough. I could tell, but that's good though, because like as a player, you respect that, and you respect the relationships that you have on. Because there's some things you go, you never even meet the owner, And I talked to CP Chandler.
Yeah.
Man, Mark Cuban's great, Pat. You have to meet him. And I'm like, man, I don't even know who my fucking owner is, man. So you appreciate.
I mean, look, whatever works. I mean, look, if you're San Antonio, you got Pop and whatever culture works for you. Right. Every owner finds what works.
That's true.
I bought the team because I love the game. You see me out there before a game. If I'm in town, I'm out there at home court. I'm shooting. When I first bought the team, I made a point to go out there and shoot threes at every arena that we went to.
That's
right.
Hard.
And so I would get out there, and back when younger, I mean, I'd be out there draining them, and people like cheering and everything, and I was
like, probably felt sick.
Oh man, it was awesome. It was awesome.
When you look at Shark Tank, which of the other sharks are most resentful that you're the most popular shark?
All of them.
I see it all the time. They're posting TikToks about it. Everybody's
but they're used to it now.
How fun is that show?
Doing the show was easy. We just shoot like 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in September, and that's it. Shooting's easy. You get there, get there at 8:30 in the morning. Well, I get there at 8:30 in the morning. We start shooting at 9. Everybody else gets there early because of all the makeup and shit. I just boom, 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 boom. But shooting's easy. It's when you make an investment and you do it like when I invest on Shark. The reason I do the show, let's put it that way. The reason I do the show is that it sends the message to kids that the American dream is alive and well. You know, they've grown up watching us now. This is our 15th year that's about to start. And so it's like, okay, now I understand a little bit more about what it takes to start a business. And if I can see this, 21-year-old from Idaho come in there and stand on the carpet and get a deal and build a company, then maybe I can do it. So that's why I do the show. But once you do a deal with that 21-year-old from Idaho, it runs the whole normal curve, right? So 25% of them have been great. 50% of them have been somewhere in the middle. It's about 25% have been dumber than fuck, boy. And it's just been like, oh my God, what did I get into? Why did I do this deal?
If I felt it at the time. Emotional,
brutal. Yeah, because everybody's cheering. Yeah. I'm getting emails on social media. Oh, you're so sweet for helping this woman out, or helping this kid out, or guy out. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do something special. And then you have to explain to them, you got to actually work. What other TV shows? Because our sales were good when it aired. What other TV shows can I do? No, that's it. You got to do the work. You got to work.
Marcus Lemonis.
Right. Yeah. Let him roll it out.
But is it true that early on in Shark Tank, the show was going to take a percentage of every company, and you were like, this is going to affect the quality of applicants for the show? Yeah, for sure. I came on as a guest shark and did 3 episodes, and I was like, the show isn't going anywhere. It's, it's like, they would bounce it around from Tuesday night to Sunday night. Whenever they would like cancel a show, they'd plug in Shark Tank. I'm like, so I'm just going to go on there and just have fun. And I'm going to do every deal I can just to fuck with them all, just because why not? It's like broadcast television, back when broadcast television was everything. And I had a deal that I had done, and we were trying to sell it. And they started telling me, we're going to have to give 3% to ABC. I'm like, fuck that. And so I went to ABC and said, look, I can't do this. If you want me to stay, we can't do this because it'd be impossible to sell a deal. And it also takes 3% of sales, which kills a company. And so I told them, I can't do it. And they're like, okay, we'll change it. They were fine with it right away. Yeah, I mean, you come in right in and change shit.
So, right. Yeah, always. That's what I do.
The game up. It's like
there's nothing more fun than disruption, man. That is the most fun.
There's nothing wrong with it, bro. The world needs more of it. I love it. Like, fuck the norm. What's the norm? Who said the norm?
If you've been doing it the same way forever, I'm coming in to kick your ass, man. That's just it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish you would have done sooner? Is there anything that you wish you would have implemented as a habit in your life sooner?
Not drinking so much.
I think that's everybody, right?
Yeah, paying the price. Yeah, slow down a little bit.
What's the point of having all the money if you can't celebrate a little bit, right?
Oh, I didn't say I couldn't celebrate a little bit.
Not as much.
Yeah. On one hand, I wish I would have had kids earlier because that's like the best ever. But on the other hand, I'm glad I waited because I wouldn't have been mature enough to deal with all of it. So that's kind of the catch-22 because they're 14, 17, and 20. They just all rolled over this summer. And it's like, oh, fuck, where did the time go? Right? And it's just, okay, you want to try to get that back.
Yeah. And what's the flashes? And we going to let them go, man.
Yeah, of course.
Man got shit to do. Enough with all your questions.
I like it.
I got a fucking dossier, dude.
What's the flashiest thing you've ever purchased?
Plane. 2 of them. Actually,
You
4.
can't fly on
Actually, 4.
4?
2 big ones, a 767 that we used for the Mavs, and one was a backup to the first one we used for the Mavs, and we rented out, but we got rid of the backup because it was too much hassle.
I had a homie FaceTime you on your plane.
Oh, yeah?
While I'm on Delta.
Delta's nice. Delta's nice.
Check this shit out, bro. They got special seats and all.
Oh, yeah, all that, right. All special. Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Even the locker room.
Yeah, did all that stuff. Now, like in the locker room, I mean, does it make a difference? You don't know, right? But if you don't do
it does.
But
if I'm a star player, And I get that, and obviously the taxes in Dallas doesn't.
Yeah, obviously that helps too.
Hurt that bad,
Yeah.
you know. Like, hell yeah, I want to come to Dallas.
Right. You
With
go
Luka,
through even the first time you're going through one like a visit or something like that. It needs to feel a certain type of way.
Did you get players cheaper because of that?
No.
Okay.
No, we went. Yeah, we didn't really have captain very often, and we never really got the star free agent. The one time we thought we had a great player free agent with DeAndre Jordan, and then he changed his mind, right?
Hey, oh yeah, the door. Y'all still
yeah,
got
the door, right? That was the worst.
Wedge the chair in front of the door. Crazy, man. Well, we would wedge the chair in front of the door and keep you, but we do know you're shit to do, man. You're a legend. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Really
Mark, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
This wasn't no bear. It was like a bear squatch.
Dad, what's a bear squatch?
It's a cross between a bear and a sass. It's made up. He's usually sleeping.
He'll never sleep again.
Welcome to the Old Man of the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, brought to you by 342 Productions. This is episode 172, Chris Finch. This is an episode in our coaching series. As some of you might know, Chris Finch was an assistant coach on the New Orleans Pelicans my first year there. Loved playing for him. He's now the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's led that team to the playoffs the last 2 years. He's got an amazing journey to become an NBA head coach. We get into his entire background, his time in Europe, both as a player/player coach and as a coach, his move to the G League, his start with the Houston Rockets, and how he worked his way up in the NBA. Look, when I think about this conversation in particular, I'm really fascinated with a couple aspects of it. Number one, Anthony Edwards is having a fantastic World Cup, and Chris talks a lot about Anthony Edwards' schemes, things that he can do better, things that he does great naturally. I know that he wants him to be a high-volume three-point shooter, which for the most part Anthony Edwards has been in his career. So that's one thing. I think his development, Anthony Edwards' development as an all-NBA, perennial all-star level player, that's the key to the Timberwolves' future. The second part is the Gobert-Towns pairing, and Chris gets into that a little bit. And I was very interested to hear what his thoughts were, how he's preparing for this coming season with that pairing. So really great conversation coming. Timberwolves, by the way, one of the teams I'm most intrigued by on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. They're at 44.5. That's their sort of over/under for win total for the season, and minus 150 to make the playoffs. We went through yesterday on the Old Man of the Three Things with Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones. All of the teams in the Western Conference, there's 11 legitimate playoff teams going into the season, assuming health, of course, assuming health. 11 teams that have a legit chance to make the playoffs. I don't think Houston is going to be bad as well. They're going to be better than they were the last two seasons. So there's going to be a highly competitive Western Conference, 44.5 wins for the Timberwolves. That's an interesting number. I'll just say that. That's an interesting number. For them to get to 45 to 50 wins, it's got to be Anthony Edwards. It's got to be Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns figuring out how to make that work. When Rudy Gobert was on the floor last season for the Timberwolves, they had essentially a top 5 to top 10 defense. This is a team that has now a year under their belt with this core group. They made the trade for Mike Conley at the deadline. He's back. It's going to be a fun group to watch. It's going to be a fun team to watch, and I'm really interested to see how Chris Finch develops that pairing in the back in the front court with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. A couple housekeeping notes. We are back on the Old Man of the Three Things. That's available exclusively on Amazon Music. Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones joined us this week. Tommy will be back at some point. I'm not sure. He's off in Manila in the Philippines at the World Cup. So he'll be back at some point this month. And the other thing I just want to say before we get to our interview with Chris Finch, I know that we took this break on the very last episode. I said it's time to go lower the handicap. It's time to get down to single digits. It's time to break 80. And I'm very proud to say that I broke 80, shot a 78 at the bridge, and just played my last round of the summer earlier this morning. I did not play well, but ending the summer on Labor Day with a 7.6 handicap. All of my scores that qualify towards my handicap right now have all occurred in the last month. So your boy's been on a heater. Although I've struggled the last 2 rounds, all good. I'm heading into the fall, my favorite time to golf, sporting a 7.6 handicap. Feel pretty good about things. Had a birdie on 18 today to end the summer. Can't ask for much more. Very blessed. Very blessed. All right, let's get to our conversation with Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch. All right, let's welcome in special guest Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, another guest in our coaching series. Coach, how are we doing? How's your summer going?
Going well, JJ. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that haven't put this together, I played for you in New Orleans for 1 year in the 2019-2020 season, a.k.a. the bubble season, a.k.a. the COVID year. And I was thinking about that entire season, not just COVID. And I would argue that was the strangest year in my 15 years in the NBA. Even more than the following year when there were no fans in the arena.
Yeah.
Like that entire season, the series of events, was that for you one of your strangest seasons? You've been, in basketball for 30 plus years now, but was that one of your strangest seasons or the strangest season of your career?
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, everything that we faced, and actually kind of, I predated you there. So just throw in the whole, management change and all of that, that started when you came in, adjusting to new management. Then we had Zion with the excitement surrounding the #1 pick. I mean, you remember what Zion looked like in the preseason, right? We thought, this is going to be exciting. And then he never makes the starting gate. I think one of the strangest times of that year was, remember his debut? He makes 4 threes in a row. He makes 4 threes in a row, and he's up against his minutes restriction, and we're getting pressured to take him out of the game. Then we finally catch a rhythm. It looks like we're going to go on this big run. We get shut down by COVID. Remember when we didn't play that game in SAC? You and Drew were instrumental and did the right thing. You stepped up and you said, hey, this isn't right. We're not going to do this. And then we go back and have a team meal, 60 people in a small room.
Everything about it. I actually wrote down a list of, and this is just some of it. I don't even want to talk about our trip to Napa pre-Christmas because that was a whole other story. But so Zion is dominant in limited amount of time in preseason. Gets hurt. We start 1-7. We got back to 6-9. Started playing a little bit better. And then we lost 13 in a row. Zion comes back. He makes 4 threes in his first game. He made 6 all season, so he made 2 more threes the rest of the year. He's made 17 threes since, and he goes 4 for 4 in his debut game. You're right. We caught a rhythm. We were 28-36 going into the bubble. I think we all thought we were going to make the playoffs. We were going to catch Memphis for the 8th seed. We had a favorable schedule going forward. We were playing great. We'd finally figured out the rotation, starting lineups, all that stuff. Really good. COVID gets shut down. We had some guys, I'll be honest with you, that probably didn't want to be in the bubble. I don't think anybody was enamored with being in the bubble, but I think the bubble was the ultimate test of how much do you want to be here? And ultimately, I think the Lakers and the Heat probably wanted to be there the most.
Yeah.
If you had told me in July of 2019 that my first year in New Orleans, that my exit interview was going to end in a hotel room with you and Alvin Gentry in fucking Disney World, I would have been like, explain that shit to me. How did we get here?
Yeah. You know what? I forgot about the 13 losing streak that year. And, all credit to, really the leadership that you guys showed inside the locker room. And also, I thought Alvin did an excellent job. We never really lost the team. I think there may have been some times, obviously, when we had some low moments. But when you lose 13 in a row, there's a chance for everything to go every which way. But somehow the team held it together,
It is remarkable. We had some players-only meetings, and I communicated that to you guys. I think there were some things that we all needed to address with each other. And I remember in our exit interview, you and Alvin both said that, it was remarkable all the things we went through that season, and to not lose the locker room, to not lose the group, and really a bunch of guys in different phases in their careers too, which was, I think, remarkable. And it's funny when I look back at that season, COVID aside, of course, because I think that stretch between when the season ended in Sacramento and when we got to the bubble, I look back at that year, and I look back with such fondness. And in 15 years in the NBA, I was like with 5 or 6 really great groups that I just enjoyed going to work with every day. And honestly, that was one of them. I really enjoyed that year. It was really fun for me. You know, when you're elder statesman in terms of like who's been there the longest is Drew Holiday. Yeah. You know, there's a level of credibility and respect that comes with that for all the young guys too.
Yeah, no doubt. The maturity that we had with the top of our leadership, group, and that was, exemplary, in the way that they handled all the adversity, no matter what it was,
Well, we're going to talk more about locker rooms later on. We're going to talk more about locker rooms and groups later on, but I do want to get a little bit into your backstory, because I think you have one of the more unique journeys to become an NBA head coach. You played at Franklin and Marshall. I didn't know this. I knew you were good at Franklin and Marshall. Apparently you are still second in school history in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals, 2-time Division III All-American, and you went and played for Sheffield in England.
Yeah.
And you had a unique start to your coaching career. Can you get into that?
Yeah, I did. I was playing overseas, and the team that I was playing for in Sheffield, we lost our coach to another job. He just decided to take another. And I was 27 at the time, and the team I was playing for knew I wanted to get into coaching, and they just asked me if I wanted the job, And my playing career wasn't really going very far, very fast at that point in time. I knew I probably was near my ceiling, which was the smaller leagues of Europe. And I wanted to get into coaching, and I thought, this is a perfect opportunity. I went from playing to being the head coach, kind of overnight. It had a lot of challenges, not the least of which were, the guys that you just were playing with, you're now us, if you will. And a lot of them were my good friends, and I lived with one, and I had to move out because a couple of buddies I lived with, one of them. So, but they were all really good dudes. They allowed me to coach them, make a lot of mistakes. I also had great support in the organization. It was like kind of a family-run business. They looked at me a little bit like a son, and just gave me an unbelievable opportunity. The cool thing about the league in England at that time is, even though it was the level was not high, we played a lot of games. We played 60, 70 games. We played in 2 different cups. We had a season tournament. We had the regular tournament. And then every once in a while you might play in a European tournament too. So you played back-to-backs. You went on the road and traveled. You bust back home, get home. So a lot of different things that you'd face that are atypical. A lot of your leagues where you play maybe once a week or twice a week in college. We were playing 3-4 times a week, and all different types of competition. Had a small staff. I had 1 assistant, 1 part-time assistant, so you have to do a lot of things yourself. So I had it all. I say I got my 10,000 hours in early, and then from there I was there for 6 years coaching, had great success. It was just time to move on. I went on to countries like Germany and Belgium. And was able to also work in good organizations, and then had some success in the European leagues. A little bit of success in the European league. Started coaching the national team of Great Britain, and then the first time, that's when the Rockets kind of found me and gave me an opportunity to come back. I never even thought that I had a chance to coach in the NBA. I didn't have a network. I went to a Division III school. I didn't have a lot of people I knew in the league, but they were looking for something different to start their G League enterprise, and so. Fortunately, it was for me. Sam Hinkie, Gerson Rosas, Daryl Morey all reached out, interviewed me, and was there for 2 years. We won the league our first year there. Daryl rips up the contract, gives me a longer-term deal, which includes years up in Houston after my second year. So, but there was no promise going in of any of that. But, you know, it's just I'm kind of lucky to work at the right time in a lot of organizations. So my first year coaching in the NBA as an assistant coach with McHale was my first time as an assistant coach ever. So I had to learn that, you know, like go from being a head coach. I had 13 years at the time as being a head coach, but I think it really, really helped me a lot. Just kind of understanding the whole dynamic and how to build different relationships with players that from coaching seat.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things about that. First of all, the point you made at the beginning about coaching your teammates or coaching people you played with. I interviewed for the Raptors job this offseason or whenever it was May or whatever it was, and that was one of the things that I thought a lot about. Not that I had played with those guys and had been in that organization, but I'm friends with a bunch of guys on their team. I competed against those guys. And I always find it fascinating. And, Joe Mazzulla coming in this year as such a young guy. Will Hardy's another example.
Yeah.
4 young coaches who are the same age as the people you are coaching. What piece of advice do you have for them?
Well, my piece of advice would be the same in most things I would say about coaching. You just got to be yourself. Like, you got to stay true to what your personality is. Like, when I heard that you were in the process in Toronto, I was excited for you. I think you have the personality to be able to do it pretty easily because you were really good at holding your teammates accountable as a player. And if you have that in you as a player, and I thought as a player I always had that, and I think it's a lot easier to do it as a coach. You can't be afraid of these guys. You know that. There's I think it's often said, and I think it's true, and you probably know this. Everyone wants to be coached in some way, shape, or form. You just got to figure out like how that is and like what fits your personality. So, when I worked with guys like Kevin or Alvin, those guys were great with players. They were, player relationship guys. They weren't necessarily disciplinarians, if you will. So I was fortunate enough to be the bad cop, if that makes sense, like in film, and I didn't mind it. It was part of my role. It's, it's kind of what they needed me to do. I didn't always want to do it, but, I thought it was what those coaches needed from me and asked of me. So I kind of got a little lucky there. That was kind of comfortable in that space.
Right, because if you've already done it as a player and you've already been a head coach, I'll be in European leagues, you're comfortable in that role if you've done it before, and it's not. I mean, look, you came to me. It was probably late December, early January, I want to say, and I shot the shit out of the ball from 3 that year. Yeah. And you came to me and look, you basically told me to stop shooting mid-range jump shots, and I was like, "Fuck off, dude."
You did have your best ever points per shot season.
I know. It's funny. It's the evolution. Like, I still see this shit on Twitter because I follow all these like stats-based accounts for NBA Twitter, and it like there was one recently, and it's like the top 10 mid-range shooters of the last 10 years, and I haven't played in 2 years, right? And it's based on volume and efficiency, and I was in the top 5 or whatever. Yeah. And I was the only player in the top 5, I think, in 3-point percentage and mid-range percentage, but at the end of my career, my last year in Philly, Sergey came to me and said, "Hey, can you stop shooting mid-range 2s when you shot fake? Like, can you just shoot a sidestep 3?" And I'm like, I don't want to. And he's like, "Well, here's what it would look like." And you came to me, said the same thing. And the reason I averaged 18 that year in Philly, and the reason I averaged 15.3 or whatever it was in New Orleans was because of the points per shot, because I was shooting more volume 3s. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't ever feel like coaches, even Coach K, never really had to like get on me about being accountable. That's like a small thing where if you come to me the wrong way, right, as a coach, I can take that in a negative way. Sure. But the way that both of you guys approached me, it was like, oh, mathematically, I can add, numbers up. This makes a lot of sense. And I think that's so much, even as a teammate, I would like, what you're talking about, how you approach someone, how you talk to them. You have to figure it out. It's not something that happens overnight, but you have to figure out how to coach each individual player.
It's funny you mention that because, like, for you in particular, it's a great case in coaching because you're obviously were excellent at it, right? And one of our catchphrases is like, you may have heard me say this to our guys when we were together, but I was like, you're already wearing an Armani suit. I just want to tailor it for you. You made yourself the player you are. It's, I'm not trying to make you a different player. I'm not trying to, change your game significantly. I'm just trying to, let's clean up the edges where we can clean up. And, you shot the ball at the mid-range extremely well. But you also shoot the ball from three extremely well. So let's just do a little bit more of that too,
Right.
And it's like these little things. It's like I'm trying to get Anthony to understand a lot of this now. Like Anthony has a lot of game, maybe too much right now for himself, But what he's really, really good at is catch and shoot threes. Shoot more of them.
Win. And how important is it to
you're still going to get the same number of shot
attempts.
attempts. You might even get more, But let's just add to this pile of stocks that are already paying dividends for you, And when you do approach it like that, I think guys have a understanding. Like my whole evolution in statistical, revolution, if you will, comes from the teams I was coaching overseas. JJ always played this way, not because I understood the math back in the 90s or early 2000s. It's just because those are the guys that I could afford, and we run up and down, played undersized basketball and shoot a lot of threes. So then when I got here, and then they, I started working in the Rockets, and we, the very heavy analytic environment, it made sense to me. So I didn't have this natural distrust of the math because I'd seen it work. Most coaches are opposite during this evolution, right? They've played one way, and now they're being asked to trust these numbers. And I'm not faulting anyone, but that's just the dynamic. And it's no different with the player, right? Like you played one way, now we're asking you to trust numbers that you haven't seen work for you, let's say. But it is working for you in the background. You were just great at shooting both shots, so.
Yeah, except for that year in New Orleans. I wasn't very good. You get older, you lose the lift, man. You lose the lift a little bit. Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy.
Is this your plan to watch the game today?
I have to watch my neighbor's NFL Sunday ticket.
It's not your best plan. But you know what it is? My plan from Verizon.
Football season is here. Get NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube TV on us, a $449 value. Plus, get a free Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, only on Verizon.
The Big Ten is now on Peacock, and we're going big. We're talking football.
Official sports betting partner, call 1-800-NET. Force call Boot Hill Football. The first day back is here with DoorDash. Tell me, and I'm glad you brought up the Houston thing. I would follow up on that too, but I have a question on this particular aspect of coaching.
Yeah.
Specifically as it relates to the mid-range, because I've had players tell me, and I saw this a little bit to a degree towards the end of my career, where a coach would say to a player, like, you're not allowed to take this shot. You're going to shoot threes or layups. And when I watch basketball at times, and when I played it, I felt that there are certain possessions, especially as you get late in a shot clock, where there's 6 seconds, guy gets run off the line, he dribbles in, the mid-range is clearly there, and he drives and kicks again because the rim's defended, and they run that guy off the line, and all of a sudden you have a shot clock violation. When the possession sometimes dictates the shot, and as if I ever coach at that level, right? I would tell my players that. And I'm curious if you've ever told guys that, you can't take this shot.
Never.
I just worked with the guy. I just worked with the guy last week where he told me his coach doesn't let him take mid-range, and I'm like, fuck that, dude. You're taking mid-range. If that's the shot that's there, you've got the body, you've got the shot. Shoot it. You start making 45-50% of them. They can't tell you can't shoot it.
Yeah. Okay, so I try not to adopt this militant zero tolerance policy because I still want guys to be able to play in the flow of the game. And the flow of the game might mean we are taking that pull-up jumper with 6 on the clock with a shot clock because that's what's there, right? but I also know in my mind roughly how many mid-range shots we can survive as a team and still be an efficient offense, right? And, that could be somewhere between, let's say, 10 and 12, depending on, like, the number of, depending on, like, how your team's built. Like, what is it you do? Do you shoot the three well? Do you get to the rim well? Whatever. So there's some variance with your personnel on that one. But I would say, we don't, like, keep a counter. I mean, I track it all. Our analytics people track it all. But, like, I don't want our players overthinking these things, like when they're playing in the flow. What we try to do is we pay a lot of attention to spacing. Like, if we get to the right spots, generally we're going to take the right shots, right? Like, a lot of those are threes, or open up the rim for drives, open up the floor for drives. But in film sessions, and if you might remember, like, I try to spend a lot of time not just saying this is a bad shot, but saying, what could we have gotten had we maintained our dribble or, moved it one more time? Like, so I always try to show where the other options are. And then in player development, I think that's one of the things that we're always trying to do is, like, what happens when you maintain your dribble? What happens when, you're faced with this situation and the other things that we can do? Like in New Orleans, we had, like, an Anthony Davis, like, he's going to take more of those 12 to 15. It's not like also everybody gets a bite of the cherry. I think when you get in trouble with an efficient offense is when everybody feels that they could come in and take these tough twos. Well, you might be able to take more of them than, I don't know, somebody else that you play with because you made them at a higher level, or you were run off the line, or you were put in more situations where this was going to naturally happen. But one thing with a lot of younger players, when they come in, they're like, Coach, that's my shot. I made a living off that shot. I said, oh, really? Let's go back and look. In college, you shot it at 34%. That's not much of a living, and you're not going to make a living here. So what are we going to do when we get to that situation now? We got to give you a second dribble in the paint so you have an outlet to create and make something else happen, And obviously, we got to keep working on your threes. So it's like you can't just tell them not to, and you can't just take it away. Right? That's a safety blanket for a lot of people. I don't know what it is, JJ. There's like a mentality. Joe Boylan and I talk about this all the time. To be able to dribble and create your own shot is something that every feel is really, really good about, whether it goes in or not. But to stand there and miss a wide open catch and shoot three, that feels devastating. So there's some sort of like mental kind of battle we're fighting that people want to be able to dribble and create their own shot.
Yeah, I think there's always pushback for any player when you try to put them in a box, right? You're allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this. This is what we want you to do. And it's like, well, I want to grow as a player.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, maybe I want to.
Rico Hines with
And you bring up Anthony Davis. Like I remember, you're right, on film sessions, there were times where you'd show a specific contested to early in the clock, 16, 17 on the clock, no ball reversal. And it's like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But then if you have a guy like Brandon Ingram, you're like, I've got to give this guy specifically a little bit of leeway on shot selection. Anthony Edwards is another example. But also show him, like, hey, dude, if you do this 10 to 20% more, all of a sudden, instead of scoring 22 a game, you're scoring 26 a game.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to the line 2 more times, all of a sudden you're scoring now 28 a game, right? It's those things, like the guys are so good. If there's improvement from those type of guys on the margins, well, that elevates everything. I think so much. I want to go back to the Rio Grande Valley thing, because I think so much of life in general is timing. And you talked about the way your European teams played, and Daryl and Sam and Gerson being there in Houston and really embracing the three-point revolution early on.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that those teams you coached in Rio Grande, that was like an incubator, like a test run.
It was, yeah.
For how to play that way. You guys just shot threes almost every possession. Do you feel like the reason you got that job is because of how your teams played in Europe? Like, very, like, specifically, that is the reason.
Yeah, I agree. I was approached through a European contact stroke agent guy that they were looking for, that my name had come across their desk, so to speak. And going through the process, I think they actually offered the job to one other person before they even settled on me, but doesn't matter. Through the whole process, I didn't really realize, I mean, I knew what they were trying to do, but they never gave me specifics. They were like, they wanted to be experimental. They wanted to kind of, bring some European concepts, yada, yada, all this stuff. And at first I was like, I was put off by it. I thought it was going to be like circus, like what is going on here? I needed to try to continue to protect the integrity of what we were trying to do, because it felt like, through some of the conversations, extreme. But once I got the job, and once I took the job and sat down with them, and they explained everything to me, then it made sense. And then they basically said, yeah, they showed data. Here's the data on your teams. That stuff that I didn't even have access to overseas, that they had access to. So it was pretty much a natural fit. And again, it was just me learning the science behind it and why it was working for me overseas. JJ, I couldn't afford overseas. I could not afford a 6'11" center to compete against the big countries in the European leagues. I could only, he wasn't any good, so I had to get a state 6'9" guy who could really run, be multi-skilled, kind of open up the floor. Shooting, we just generally had shooters around Europe, and that's just how we played. That just gave us the best chance to win, and when we had some success, it kind of fed itself. And then I go to Houston, and you talk about timing. When I first got to Houston, and everything was open and inclusive, it was a great environment, allowed coaches in, and they prepared for the G League draft very similar to the NBA draft, but just a shortened version. You spend 3 or 4 days rather than weeks and weeks. But in that room was Daryl, Sam, Hinkie, Gerson, as we talked about, Arturas Karnisovas, Monty McNair, who's the head of the Kings right now, Sachin Gupta, who's here with me in Minneapolis, who was, interim GM. And I'm sure I'm losing, but that's a lot. It's a lot of bad brain power right there that I got to go to work with every day. So that's one of the most fortunate things that's happened to me in my career, is to be able to just work with those types of guys.
Yeah. How do you approach how you want to play versus the personnel you have? Because you're talking about not a luxury, but the circumstances in Europe where you were essentially forced to play a certain way, and that brought you success. In the NBA, as a head coach, you can have some influence probably on the type of people that the front office brings in, but ultimately, to have success in the league, right, you've got to tailor how you want to play to your personnel. And I'll give you an example. I remember my year with you, and Alvin, it was a lot of random. And I like playing that way. I thrive playing that way. Because I'm smart.
Yes.
And I can.
And you move well without the ball.
I move well without the ball. I can make adjustments. I mean, I remember we used to run that 21 action, and every time we got in the bonus, I would run into the guy guarding the ball, and I'd flail my arms, and I'd get to the free throw line. Mm-hmm. And it's like, great. I know I'm going to get 2 points a game just out of our offense because of that randomness of 21 action, which, we would flow into. There was no call, right? I'm just like, I have the freedom to do this. But we're also playing with young guys. And I remember having a conversation with Griff after the season, and I just remember thinking like, hey, some of these guys, like, I think would do better if there was structure. And then we kind of took it to an extreme following that. And that didn't work either. And then with you, like, you get to the situation where you're now the head coach, and you get to, this is how we're going to play. But you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got Karl-Anthony Towns. Then the following season, they bring in Rudy. Yeah. So you're constantly having to adjust this, like, basic concept of how do we want to play offensively. And, of course, Gobert changes the paradigm defensively. Yeah. But how do you sort of approach that?
Yeah, so that's a great question because it's literally what we've been kind of morphing through at the moment right here. So, first of all, you got to nail the high notes. Like, to be an efficient offense, you still have to, get to the right shots. Now, the distribution of shots are different. Like, the year that I first went to New Orleans when we had DeMarcus and Anthony Davis, like, we were elite at the rim, and we were elite at getting to the free throw line. But we didn't shoot a ton of threes, and we didn't make a ton of threes. But because we played with enough pace and we were able to, like, live at the rim and benefit from the offensive rebounds and the free throw. So that was one way that we could have an efficient offense, When you were there, we were probably way more of a high-volume three-point team, right? Played with a lot of pace, randomness, shot a lot of threes. Yeah, and I agree probably with certain players that they always need structure, and I think there's been players that we've not been able to maximize in certain systems that we've had because of that. I believe right now as we head into this next year, which is hopefully a complete season with, Cat and Rudy, we need more structure just because, like, the structure is going to provide us the right spacing for the two bigs to kind of stay out of each other's way. I think at times they got into each other's way.
Yeah, for sure.
Offensively, we weren't great. We were pretty medium last year as a result of, we didn't take enough threes probably. We were a pretty low volume 3-point shooting team here, so we got to get some guys to take a few more threes. Sometimes D'Angelo is a little bit like what we talked about earlier. He's good in the mid range. He likes to pull up. But out of those pick and roll situations, we're not creating enough of the right shots, perhaps. So lots of little things we can do, but I think structure will help us do that. But as long as we're, like, trying to get to the right shots, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, the rest of it is you have to coach it into existence. It's like anything else. Like I say all the time, these analytics, they're guides. They're not gods, JJ. Like, we're not doing this stuff just because the numbers say it. Like, we have to figure out what's best for our team. And if we're within a certain paradigm, we're going to be okay. And maybe we take a few more mid-range than, like, some other teams that I've had, ideally. But we have to augment that with, like, get into the line more or living on the offensive glass. Like, last year we weren't very good on the offensive glass. There's no reason we shouldn't have been. We should have been better on the offensive glass. But we decided to punt offensive rebounding to be good in transition. And with the two bigs on the floor, we weren't. So we didn't benefit from either, So then actually I have a report here just, like, sifting through, all the things that we got to do better next year. And it's like, it's pretty interesting when you do these self-examinations, like, how to connect the pieces from what from one team to another, And that's where I feel confident going into this season coming up, because I think we've learned a lot from our personnel grouping last year. Even though, like, the sample size was chopped up, it gives us a good place,
First of all, I'm glad you said that the analytics are a guide, not a god.
Yeah.
Because I do believe there is a balance that you have to find. I've talked about this with you, and I've mentioned it before on the podcast. Like, towards the end of my career, I had to find that balance. And truthfully, if I look back at the beginning of my career, I wish I had played for coaches that were like, "Hey, high volume threes. We want you taking 8 to 10 threes a game." I had coaches like that at the end of my career, right? It might not be 17th all time. It might be in the top 10. You never know. So I appreciate that.
You would be.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So there's some of that, and then the other thing, because you brought him up, I said this throughout the year, early in the year, and then as we got towards the end of the year as well. And I know he was out for a long stretch of the season with an injury, but I thought Cat probably had it the toughest last year in terms of he's been a All-NBA, All-Star, probably had it the toughest last year in terms of he's been a All-NBA, All-Star playing a position where he has an advantage.
Yes.
As a 5. He's constantly attacking closeouts. He's able to create space to get threes. He's getting points at the rim off those closeouts. He's getting to the free throw line off those closeouts. Now, all of a sudden, when he's on the court with Gobert, he's generally playing against switching defenses. He's not creating those closeout advantages. And then on the other side of the ball, I remember, I mean, you're asking a guy to do something he's never done in his career. I called, I think it was Game 3 in Minnesota of the first round. And I remember in the fourth quarter, they went to their horn split action, and Aaron Gordon brought the ball up.
Yeah.
And Jamal Murray set a rip screen. And like, when has Karl Anthony Towns ever guarded that action prior to this year?
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon gets a dunk. Very next time they run the play. This time they both go with Aaron Gordon. Jamal Murray comes off a handoff, gets an open jumper. It's like that to me, I think was probably, maybe I'm mistaken on this, but I think that to me was probably your biggest challenge this year when Rudy came in.
Yes, I think, you hit on all the key points with this, lineup that we have now. And first it starts with Cat. Like, he made and has to make and continues to make the most sacrifices, which, not many all-NBA players are asked to make sacrifices. So all credit to him. He has a tremendous willingness to continue to want to make it work. There was a big concern for me. I didn't want to just turn him into a 2-guard, and plant him in the corner and tell him to take more threes. I do think he can increase his 3-point rate, but to your point, he's so much success driving against 5s. I think now he has to realize I'm just going to shoot over more, and I think these are things that he's learned. But the biggest challenge is really, because he's so skilled and gifted offensively, he's always going to find a way to be impactful there, and continue. And we got to do a good job of putting him in positions to take advantage of some matchups. But the biggest challenge is always going to be on the defense side of the ball. To your point, guarding actions, being in rotations. And this is where we missed the reps. I mean, we had him for 20 games. It was choppy. It was hit and miss. We were trying to figure some things out. We looked.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Good, sometimes not. Then he misses 50, comes back for 10. When he comes back, we're literally just get in and try to feel good about your game. You know what I mean? Let's just see if we can get you physically ready for the playoffs, being able to cover all the things that we're going to see. That's what the regular season's for. All these things that you're going to have to employ when it matters most. Hopefully you will have had some chance to do it in the regular season. We just didn't have it with him, And so that remains our challenge, is just how to kind of build that defense,
In that first round series, a few Nuggets players after their run talked about that series maybe being the hardest series or the toughest matchup potentially. I think Jokic did shoot his lowest percentage of any series during that championship run. And it was my first time calling a Nuggets playoff game, and I talked about it in the open. I talked about it on the broadcast. Talked about it a ton on the podcast. Just the difficulty of guarding all of the different ways that Jokic and Murray get to their 2-man action. Yeah, and I remember specifically in that game, I talked about Murray was coming off a big game, and I talked about why you guys were in drop coverage. And I said, hey, look, if they put the big up. Murray's going to pass it to Jokic. He's behind the defense. Now he's going to make plays. Sure enough, in the first half, big was up, pass it to Jokic. Jeff Green cut out of the corner, dunk, right?
Yeah.
And you see,
you know what crazy this is, JJ?
yeah, you see throughout every series, you're like, okay, like, what is the answer? Because I've seen, Miami tried to switch. That didn't work. Like, Miami tried to be physical a little bit with Murray. All right, they did it okay for one game in game 2, but overall Murray adjusted. Like, is there a good answer for that 2-man action?
Well, I think it starts with, what do you want Jokic to do? You want him to pass or score, right? That's where it starts for me. And, most teams will look at the numbers, and the numbers say, you want him to try and score. If you can if you can force him to take more than like 3 threes a game, they tend to, quote unquote, struggle, whatever that means for a champion, right? If he has to score a lot, he's wired to try to score every time down. He's wired to make plays for his teammates, and he's always making the right play. This is why he's an unbelievable player. Like, he makes the right play. If he has to score all night, he generally does it, even though he prefer not to. So I think that's where it starts. You got to just try to, make his life as hard as possible, as you can, as possible, as long. But, where we were really kind of short is, like, you need a great one defender to guard Jamal. That's like
Jaden McDaniels.
Like Jaden McDaniels. A different version of the obviously, but when we were together, like Drew Holiday. Drew's going to blow up every screen.
Gonna fight over the top.
So that you don't have to get detached. You're going to live with some shots, and Jamal's, made him, obviously, many years since we've been together, so he's a better now, but it's not easy. But, that's the coverage for me. Try to make Jokic score if you can. Take away, all the easy baskets he gets for everybody else, not just Jamal, And then the stuff that Jamal's going to create for himself, because he's so good at doing that, how do you make, you got to have somebody who can make that as difficult as possible. So, but I think with our series, the advantage we have, not advantage, but the reason that we're able to, I think, battle them, and I don't take any real, peace of mind for the fact that they say those things, because we still, got outplayed significantly. They're not, we have 2 bigs. Their best player is a big. They're not taking him off the floor. They're not going small. They're not going to, so we have a chance to kind of just throw 2 bodies at him and, see what happens, if you will.
Yeah, and the size, I think, matters with Gordon, too, which we saw, later on in the playoffs, where he just kept taking advantage of smaller lineups that either the Lakers or the Miami Heat.
We're going to talk about a perfectly constructed team, JJ.
Yeah.
In terms of, a guy who's so good in and around the dunker, an unbelievable 2-man game, and they got the right combination of defense and shooting in their other wings, just a phenomenal, blend of guys, really.
No, I agree. And then when they started bringing out the inverted Murray Jokic pick and roll late in games, I was like, yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. You can't. It's just you're right. And then because he's spraying out to shooters, and you've now coached 2 years in the NBA playoffs, and I know you've had a bunch of success overseas and in the G League in the postseason. What have you personally learned about coaching in the NBA playoffs? What do you think you've done right? What do you think you've done wrong? What has been eye-opening about the whole experience? Because it is so different. I know as a player it was so different, and you learned so much going through a playoff run versus an 82-game regular season, which can honestly get repetitive and monotonous.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. I think it's very hard, I believe, with the motion of a series and the media, all that goes on every game that's played. There's these pendulous swings. Hard not to get caught up. As a team, you got to try to keep your team as even keeled as possible. I think so. We've had some kind of outrageous swings and performances in our playoff series so far. I got to do a better job of, trying to keep everybody maybe on a little bit more of an even keel, regardless of what happens. You know, we got to figure out. You know, obviously, we still have to figure out how to close games a little better, and in playoffs that happens. You know, Anthony's trying to learn how to be a closer. Traditionally, it's been difficult to close with bigs because you can just go double them if you put them inside. You know, outside, generally bigs don't like get to their own shot all by themselves. You know, I can a little bit, but we've not been great at closing in general. So something we got to hopefully get better at. Kyle Anderson is one of our best closers, you know, just with his decision making. Mike Conley, these guys, you know, but I think we've done a good. Those are something I think we can get better at. I do think we've done a good job of growing into the series for your players. Like if you think about, you know, Anthony's made the playoffs in his second and third year, and he's been pretty amazed by, like, he's played well, like, you know, for the most part. And that's super encouraging. A lot of number one picks don't make the playoffs like until 5-6 years into their career, if at all, times where they end up going. So I think, you know, our young players have grown into the series a bit. Unfortunately, this year we didn't have Jaden and we didn't have Nas. I think them missing valuable playoff experience and minutes is probably one of our biggest regrets of the season. Not just that they weren't there to help us win, but like for their future growth.
On Anthony, Pat Bev last year on the podcast said that he's MJ. Like in terms of just his athleticism. And I don't know how Anthony's wired. Yeah, MJ's a psycho. Like so many great players. But in terms of his athleticism, his natural gifts, can, you know, throw a football 50 yards, can hit a baseball. Just the game comes pretty easy to him. You mentioned obviously closing games. Besides that, for him, like, what's the next step? Where does he sort of evolve from here?
So one thing he's got to get. I mean, this isn't necessarily a step in evolution, but it is a significant one for him. He's got to get better at foul drawing. You know, and then I put that in the context of, like, how do you control the whole game when the ball in hands? You know, like, and he has the ability to get to a lot of different shots. Some of them are better than others, but he's got to be better at, like, manipulating the floor, reading the floor, understanding coming maybe in advance. And then, you know, being able to kind of slow the game down enough to draw fouls or make the right play, you know, just kind of keep trusting that, you know, the right play is going to benefit him in the long run. I think that's certainly, like, cerebral part of the game, and he's learning that. He's faced a lot of different looks already at this point in his career. He's very good at adjusting, like, from game to game when we watch him on film and we talk about him and we rep him out. Got to be a little bit better at, like, putting him in play in the middle of the game. Like, not every game is the same. Like, a lot of young go into every game and think, okay, it's, you know, I just had 2 last night. Like, let's get it cranked up again. And whoa, it's a whole different defense, and he can't figure out why he can't get his rhythm going. You know, you probably experienced this yourself at one point young in your career, right? So I think he understands that that's the case, but then obviously what are you going to do to, like, impact?
Why try Febreze car? Febreze starts just right and stays just right for 40 days. Febreze car.
Act it right away rather than trying to figure out 2 or 3 quarters into the game.
Right. I think that's the part about controlling the game. I never experienced as a player because I was never a ball dominant player, but I always think about players that either are or have the potential to be ball dominant players. You think about the greatest players ever that are ball dominant players. That's what they do. They control nearly every offensive possession. LeBron, Chris Paul, Jokic does this. Luka, of course, does this as well.
Giannis.
And Giannis, and Giannis had to go through that. To your point, like Giannis in year 4, his first All-Star year, he didn't figure, like, they had those playoff disappointments, and he had to figure out, okay, when am I a scorer? When am I a passer? You know, how do I maximize Brook? I think so much of that evolution is like, I can get mine. How do I maximize my teammates? How do I get my teammates to be better? And not just for Anthony. I think every young, talented, ball-dominant player has to figure that out.
Yeah. But I like if you have a player with great gravity, JJ, it gives you a chance to do a lot of cool things on the floor, right? I mean, you don't have to be ball dominant to have gravity. That's what I loved about coaching you. When you would run off a screen, there would be multiple guys going. And I always said when we played guy you or you or us, the overreaction to what JJ is going to do is oftentimes more detrimental than just living with the shot with a hand in his face once, and because when you're making shots with a hand in your face, as a coach, you feel helpless. What can we do? We got to send multiple guys on. But so as soon as you have this gravity piece on the floor, that's when you get to what you're talking about. How do I use that to, obviously.
To give Jackson Hayes 3 dunks a game on pocket passes.
Yeah, exactly. Jackson Hayes is not getting 3 dunks a game in any other way.
No, once I figured that piece of it out, and it was after Stan left Orlando. So probably my first year was Jacques Vaughn. Once I figured that out, beginning of every season, I'm going to Blake Griffin. I'm going to DJ.
Yeah.
I'm going to, Joel, of course. That was a big part of why I went there, because my recruiting
action.
pitch was me and him doing 2-man action at 1:30 in the morning the day free agency opened.
Yeah.
But it's look, you can make me better. I need you. But I can actually make things a little easier on you too if you trust me on some stuff.
No doubt.
And that, yeah. So I mean, but again, I'm getting whatever. Prime of my career, I'm using 20 to 22% of my possessions. I'm not upper 20s, low 30s like some of these guys are. Chris, I got a couple more questions, and I'll let you get out of here. But I do want to ask you. I've talked with a number of people about this over the last few months, and it's funny because you brought up all those guys in that room in Houston who were at the forefront of this revolution, evolution, whatever you want to talk about in terms of NBA offenses. Do you have any thoughts around the next innovation around how the game is going to be played? Because the one constant in the NBA has been evolution. Strategy, X's and O's, what positions are most important. And I think some of it, I'll just give my thought. I think some of it is dictated by who the best players in the game.
No doubt.
Right? So if it's the 90s and the best players are all centers, that's going to be how the game is played. If Steph Curry and this run he's on, well, you're not beating Golden State with twos. So we gotta amp up the 3-point stuff. So any thoughts on that in terms of what could potentially be the next sort of innovation around how the game is played?
Yeah, I get asked this question a whole lot, JJ, and it's a great one because I don't think if you look, I think if you 15 years ago or you're looking at the numbers, you could see all the inefficiency, right? But so many teams right now are playing way more efficient than they ever have been. So there's not I don't see a lot of gain to be had there. So I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying about the level of talent that's going to drive it. And this is, copycat, whatever you want to say. What I feel is going to happen is it feels to me like Big is getting so much more skilled, right? You have Jokic, we're lucky to have Cat. I mean, they're out there. Embiid, all these guys are so skilled. And Kevin McHale used to say, "Skilled big, beats skilled small every time." So maybe there's a shift back, emphasizing skilled big. Now it doesn't have to be just back to the basket post ups, but maybe that. To me, it feels like the league, is getting a little bigger all down. Even just wing size is back to maybe what it used to be a little bit before. I don't know. Maybe you're not going to be able to get away with playing. I mean, you just mentioned it, punishing these smaller lineups with some bigger ones, like Aaron Gordon was able to do.
Yeah. I like that.
I don't have a clean answer.
No. It's fine because we don't know. We actually don't know, and that's the beautiful thing about it. We don't know what the game's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, and you just kind of have to be adaptable about it. But I like what you're saying about the skilled bit because I was with Mark Jones at Summer League, and he talked on the broadcast about that there may be a trend back towards bigger lineups, and I think we've seen that to a degree, but when you look at all the big lineups, they have skilled bigs.
Yes.
Right. And
I talk about Cavs all the time, and I'm like, look, Mobley, he doesn't have to be an ISO guy on that team. He doesn't have to be a post-up guy. But if all of a sudden he's shooting threes, right, he's making plays off the dribble, well, that unlocks a lot, right? And Giannis has never been a great shooter. Was a very above-average mid-range shooter for like 5 straight seasons. He's never been a three-point shooter. I actually think Giannis is incredibly skilled.
Yes.
So, like, and he's playing 4 for you, right? So I like that call that the teams that are able to draft, develop, sign skilled bigs, I think they're going to have a huge advantage going forward because, as we saw, like size does matter. Size does matter. And the other point, I love that you brought up like how efficient all the offenses are now. To me, that's, and RJ said this too, but to me, that's part of the reason the Warriors haven't been as dominant is because all these teams now play like the Warriors to a degree, right? They don't have Steph, they don't have Clay, but they try to play, and so that disparity has been narrowed a huge amount. All right, last question, because I have to ask you, and this is from a coaching perspective.
Sure.
I do talks on leadership. When I talk with the Raptors, one of the things I love talking about is conflict, because I think conflict in the NBA is inevitable. And I've been on teams where coaches, players, we avoided conflict. That ultimately led to resentment, and sometimes even beyond resentment, where it just fractured a locker room. And you guys had a very high-profile conflict at the end of the regular season going in, with Rudy hitting Kyle Anderson on the bench in front of thousands of people and then millions of people to see. Jaden, of course, punching the wall on the way out at halftime, which eliminated him from the playoffs. How did you handle that? And sort of how do you sort of view, generally, just conflict avoidance, conflict resolution, embracing conflict as a head coach, as the leader of a team?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm open to conflict. I think it has to happen. One of the things we talk about is brutal truth. We got to be brutally honest with each other. Like, you can say it to me, I can say it to you. Hopefully we can move on quickly and get a understanding of where we are. Film sessions, pretty right there, black and white. We don't dance around it. We kind of, obviously, the Rudy, Kyle is not something that we openly condone. But you and I both know these things happen all the time in practices. I mean, it just happened the other day, like, I think in the Kansas City Chiefs practice, right? Like, now, what happened there was the height of pressure. Game 82, we got to make it to secure the best possible play-in position at that point in time. The two of our most competitive guys, in Kyle and Rudy, two of our best guys at holding their teammates accountable, just happened to try to do it to each other. And, it was Kyle was asking for Rudy to do something. Rudy felt he was doing it. Some unfortunate language was exchanged, and then he lost his cool. I try not to overreact to it. Got a game to go on and try to win in the moment. By 10 o'clock that night, everything had been resolved. I mean, the players had all patched it up. Rudy was sent home. Kyle was, talked to. They had talked to each other. Mike Conley was an unbelievable, leader that was instrumental. Tim Conley took a quick, swift decision that we're going to suspend Rudy moving forward. We just have to. Our team didn't like that. Our players wanted Rudy back. They didn't think it was worth on a suspension, but we had to do it. So there was, by noon the next day when we were boarding the flight to LA to play the playing game, there was a lot of momentum around, it's all gone. It's fine. Let's move on. We got other things to do. Like it honestly wasn't like something that had been bubbling around under the, like, it wasn't like a contract is there's two guys competing for the same minutes or the same money, or they don't personally don't like each other. I mean, there was a game a month earlier where Kyle threw Rudy a lob. Rudy missed the dunk but got fouled. Kyle walks over and gives him a kiss. You know, so it's like this. You know, I think we might have reacted differently if we felt that there was like malice or ill intent there, but there just generally wasn't. You know, and it was obviously seen. We're not proud of it, but you know, we forgot about it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Again, what made it unique was that it happened in front of people.
Yeah.
It was not unique that it happened.
You want to hear a funny story about that?
Yeah.
You know those announcements they play before the game, like if you're in the crowd, you see something, please report to it. So the next day, someone said, in section 238, and I saw Rudy punch Kyle.
That's great. No shit. We all saw it. Thanks for reporting it. Coach, it's been great catching up with you. This was fantastic. I appreciate it, man.
Man, appreciate it, man. You're doing great work. I love watching you do your thing media-wise, too, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Take
care, guys.
Hey, okay, last topic. How have you been liking Kick? First month. This is your first month on here.
The only downside from Kick to Twitch is like the channel hopping when like you're interacting with other streamers. That's the only thing that's like different. Like Twitch is more like, oh my god, it's all like the channel hopping is cool. But that's the only thing I miss from Kick.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been that bad though.
I said, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just glad the Kick movement is being pushed, bro. It's tough. It's a tough movement. It's a super tough movement. Super tough movement, bro. Kick been doing amazing. And we got to play, bro. Can we schedule to play a game soon? The whole group.
What type of game? Who's the whole group?
You. I'm pointing at it.
Stop playing. You want to play this so bad?
Just won't like views, bro. Like it's weird, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like you caught me, bro. Like, bro, like. I'm sorry, bro.
Nah, you look mad fanned out right now, bro.
I'm sorry, bro. Am I?
That was crazy.
That was Glaze?
That was Glaze. Fanned out. Oh, better. Japan came back different. That ain't work out.
So what you feel like I should just be on some like, bro, I don't get no, bro, like, no.
Yeah, I don't get no. Hey, who even is that?
What? Bro, I'm about to spank you. Bro, I hate you, man. I'm about to whoop you out of that wheelchair and sing you to the mafia.
Hey y'all, so I just downloaded the Experian app because I wanted to check my FICO score, but it does so much more. This thing shows you your FICO score, you can get your credit card recommendations, and it shows you ways to save money.
See all you can do with the free Experian app. Download it now.
After you work out, you can feel worn out.
You regret some things in life.
And the guy that's stopping by for conversation on the drink today, ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't need any introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He's a 10-time NBA champ, 5 as a player, 5 as an owner executive, a 3-time Finals MVP, a 3-time NBA MVP, 12-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star Game MVP, 9-time All-NBA First Team, an Olympic gold medalist, two-time Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, member of the 75th anniversary team and the 50th anniversary team, NCAA champion, NCAA Final Four most outstanding player, Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan. He's a leader, a father, a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, a dreamer, a fighter. I've run out of words to describe who he is, Irving Magic Johnson, but you can call him Magic. Magic, how you doing, bro?
Oh, I'm doing great, Stan, and thank you for having me on. You know, we've been trying to hook this up, so I'm glad.
This has been, ladies and gentlemen, this has been in the making for 2 years.
That's right.
Now, the man told me, I think I asked him at the end of 2020, we were in the pandemic. He said, when we get out of this pandemic, I'm going to come see you. Okay, I saw him at the beginning of 2021. He said, I ain't forgot about you now. I did not forget about you. I said, okay, Magic. So here, fast forward to 2022. I saw him in the gym. I said, he said, talk to my assistant. We're going to get it done. I saw her. We were talking. I saw her we saw each other about 3 months ago. I said, Magic say he's going to get me done. He said, well, he's going on vacation, and when he gets back, I said, he just got back from a vacation. He's going out again. Like, yeah, he's going out again. But thanks for your time today.
My pleasure, brother.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Everything going very well.
So tell me about this month-long vacation that how long has it been? How long have you been doing it? And what made you decide to say, you know what, I need a vacation for a month? Most people take a week, maybe 2. You do a month. This year might have been 2 months.
Well, Shannon, I worked so hard, man.
Right.
And I said to my wife, Cookie, I said, we went on vacation for 2 weeks, right?
Right, yep.
And I said, man, it's not enough. So the next year we did 3 weeks.
Okay.
Said, man, it's not enough. So I said, 4 weeks. He said, oh, man, we did that for about 5 years. And I said, that's not enough. So we started doing now 5 weeks. But the blessing is we've been going to Europe for 31 years. Wow. And so that's our annual trip. I believe if I get everything that I want, and I know the place, why not just keep going back? Because I know.
Do you go back to the same place?
A lot of the same places and some new places in Europe. So
I'm saying 31 years, man. That's a long time to go. So you've seen damn near everything. No question. What haven't you seen?
And it's about that.
Right.
But also, I love Italian food.
Right.
Go to Italy, you get the best, man.
You get the best.
You know, it's amazing. I got to stay on my workout, though.
Tell us about the lottery that you have. That you every year you have different couples go along with you. I've seen LL and his family go. I've seen Samuel Jackson and his family go. I think Rodney and Holly Pete.
That's right.
Read along with you. So how do you come up with this lottery?
Yeah. That's good, Stan. Nobody's ever said that. I'm gonna use that one. Well, it's really my wife, right? She says, okay, baby, what we want to do.
Right.
Hey, it's on you.
Right.
We go with couples that, you know, we have something in common.
Right.
That we can have a lot of fun with.
Conversation.
That's right. Watch movies with.
Right.
Because on a yacht, we spend a lot of close time
Everybody
together.
going nowhere. No walks.
So we know them, all of them. Rodney and Holly, Sam and LaTanya Jackson. And like you said, LL and his wife Simone. So we know them very well. They know us, so it's easy to go on a trip with them and spend a lot of quality time with them as well.
I just saw on Showtime you guys had the anniversary where you guys reunited with the Showtime Lakers. How did that come about?
Well, Shannon, it was funny because I called Coach Riley and said, listen, man, we got to do the Showtime reunion.
Right.
Only thing we haven't done is gotten together.
Right.
So he said, Buck, you know, everybody call me Buck. Buck, go ahead and put it together. So I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
So I called my staff and together and said, we're going to do the Showtime reunion. The Lakers always trained in Hawaii, so we're going to go to Hawaii.
Bro, this motherfucker is scorching.
Called the hotel, got
bro,
the
how
Four
many
Seasons
threes
on
he
board,
done hit, bro?
got American Airlines on board, so we got all these different companies on board. And
That's
then
cap.
called the guys, man, they
all long twos, bro.
And Shannon, it was the best.
It had to be long twos.
It was emotional, it was gratifying, it was everything all in one. And then when we got on the bus one more time, this is crazy. You know how this is. Everybody got their favorite seat.
Right.
Guess what? Everybody went back to the same seat. That's when I said, oh, this is awesome.
It has been 35, 40 years since that.
That's right. And then I had made sure we had the uniform, so they had their number, their name on it. And, man, we went into the gym. Hey, we were missing more shots than we were making.
But you know what, Magic? As you guys have gone about your separate ways, you don't get an opportunity to reconnect.
That's right.
I mean, early on when you retire, you see each other all the time. But now as you become fathers, grandfathers, some great-great-grandfathers, you've kind of moved about in different ways. Some people are over here in Georgia or wherever. And so to get back together, there's something about a bond in a championship team. You can play together, but that bond, because you know what it took in order for you to win that championship.
Right.
There was a lot of sacrifices a lot of guys had to make, and to come back and relive that moment. Man, you remember we was on that bus and we was going to Boston. You remember we was on that bus, we played Detroit.
That's it right there. It was the storytelling.
Right.
You know, going back 30 years ago and what happened, we were telling all the stories. Some have changed because, you know, we put a little extra on it, lying a little, but it was so much fun, man. And then we had karaoke night every single night. I can't sing, but I was up there singing. But Byron Scott can sing.
Right.
But we had a ball, man. Just a week, just spending time together. And you're right. A lot of guys live on the East Coast, so I didn't see them for 30 years, 25 years.
Right.
So it was just a wonderful time. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad Coach Riley and I came together so we could put this together for the Showtime Legends.
Talk to me about Coach Riley, because I mean, everybody that I've heard talk about him, man, he tough. He no nonsense. They call him Mafia. They call him Mafia, Pat Riley. What's your take? How was he as a coach, Magic?
He was what you just said. He was a tough coach. Only, hey, I want you to come in here and give 150%. And he was a detail-oriented dude.
Right.
We were so prepared for our opponent.
Right.
Because he went over everything, whether that was rebounding, defense, offensively, what we're going to do to attack their defense. Also, too, mentally. He believed in mental toughness.
Right.
He didn't want nobody. If you weren't mentally tough, you couldn't play for Pat Riley in the league.
Right.
Right. And so he believed in that. And then one thing he was great at, identifying talent, letting that talent play,
right,
and not overcoaching.
Okay.
See, he let you go.
Right.
He said, Buck, I don't want you to look at me. Call the plays.
Right.
He said, but I want you running. This was his whole thing, Shannon. They may not get tired in the first quarter.
Right.
They may not get tired in the second quarter. But if we keep running in the third quarter, they're going to be hanging on their shorts saying,
But you know, Magic, in order for them to be hanging on their shorts, that means you had to be in camp and in practice. You guys had to go to that next level in order to get them tired late in the ball game.
He ran us so hard. The first hour of practice was all running. All running. All conditioning. And, man, so when we got to the game
was easy.
Man, the game was so easy. And I had Michael Cooper guard me every single practice. So when I saw somebody guard me on the other team, I was like, man, you easy.
Right. So when people talk about, like, the greatest teams, obviously your Showtime Lakers come up. They talk about the Bulls in the 90s. All of a sudden now the Warriors, 2018 with Kevin Durant. The Celtics that you great, we're going to get into those. Where would you rank your Showtime Lakers?
Oh, we're definitely one of the greatest teams ever because we had everything.
Right.
We could do everything. And that's, when you got a guy like Kareem that can dominate inside. Right. James Worthy. Oh, man, what a...
On the break,
Yes. And then you got the shooters and Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, and we had the defensive mentality as well. We can defend you and then get out and run. So we can score inside, outside, and on the break.
Right.
That's hard to defend. And we had the coach. Because Pat Riley, to me, the best coach that's ever lived, but he could make in-game adjustments that were critical, right? And also he motivated you. So this man could take us and play. We could play against anybody and win. So
because you guys were running, and when you think Showtime Lakers, you don't think physical. When you think Bad Boy Pistons, the first thing comes to your mind, okay, they physical.
That's right.
But you guys, you had to match that mentality. The Celtics, we don't think about the Celtics, but the Celtics was a big physical team.
That's right.
They've had those three imposing. They had Bird, McHale, and Paris. 7-foot Paris, 6'9", McHale, 6'9", Bird. That front line was ginormous, but they were a physical bunch with DJ.
Right. And still the greatest front line we've ever probably seen in basketball, right? They were physical, and also they were smart. The Celtics were not going to beat themselves. You had to beat them. Right? And then to Isaiah and his bad boy Pistons, I don't think there's ever been a more physical team than them.
Okay.
They imposed their will on you.
Right.
They beat you up, man.
Right.
And if you flinched, it was over for you.
Right.
So in '88 when we played them, it was a physical matchup, 7-game series. We won in Game 7, but the next year in '89 they came back and beat us.
Right.
And they could do things very few teams could do. They could be physical, and then they had that three-headed monster. Isaiah, Joe Dumars, and Benny Johnson.
Right.
You couldn't do nothing.
Benny got clicking.
And I'm not even talking about John Sally and Rodman.
They had Mahorn, the first year Lambert.
That's right.
When they brought that specific style football to the basketball court, did you think that was basketball?
Yes. Only because Isaiah and Joe still had finesse and still. Was it tough to play against it? Of course.
Right.
But, give them credit. They won back-to-back championships.
Correct.
I never take anything away from a champion.
Right.
And so they proved that style could win.
Right.
And they won with it. And so give them credit. And they, to me, one of the greatest teams as well. Because defensively, I don't know if we've seen a better team than the Pistons.
Right. You went to 9 finals in 12 years. And we've seen teams that when they start going to finals, we see when the Warriors, they went to those finals, the guys started the injuries. Clay got hurt, KD got hurt. When you go to that, did you feel that took some of your years off your career going to so many finals because it was tough?
Oh, yeah.
Every single year. And a lot of times you were going 7 games, you're going deep.
That's right. No, it had to. We're playing more games than any other team.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you add the regular season and then you add up the playoff games as well every year, and then we were also professional, so we only took probably 2 or 3 weeks off, and then we were right back at it training. So when I played, I trained all the time.
Right.
My coach, Pat Riley, had to call me and say, "Stop training. Right. You're gonna burn yourself out." But I didn't know nothing else. Right. I always wanted to come in camp in shape instead of using camp
to get in
shape.
But let me ask you a question. When you say training, obviously you see these guys now, they're doing a lot of these drills, but a lot of your training was open run. You were actually playing the game of basketball.
Right.
It wasn't so much drills like these guys are doing now.
No, and I think for me, I'm so happy I played 5-on-5.
Okay.
So that's what Isaiah would call. Man, we're playing in the summer league in Chicago. We're going to run for 2 weeks. I'm there.
Okay.
So I went to Chicago, played in the summer league for 2 weeks. Right. Then Dominique would call and say, "Hey, we're playing in Atlanta. Come on to the summer league there." So we spent 2 weeks with Dominique playing in the Atlanta summer league.
Right.
And then
that was before the NBA had a summer league. That might have been why the NBA got a summer league.
That's right. That's why the gyms were packed. All those guys in there, professionals playing in the summer league. And then we would come to Detroit. And
crazy how they get the rebound again, bro.
So we played all the time. Right. And we even barnstormed sometimes as well. Went to a lot of cities that wasn't known, didn't have an NBA team. Memphis, Birmingham, and we would just play 5-on-5, and people would come out and see us play.
I want to go to something forward. We're going to go back, but I want to go to something forward. Russell Westbrook from L.A. Started OKC, goes to Houston, goes to Washington. His dream, after seeing Kobe and Shaq hold up the trophies, he's been a lifelong Laker fan. He comes here, and it's not going according to plan. And I think there's no greater person to speak to this than you. You got booed twice in L.A. You win the championship, and all of a sudden, you and the coach, for whatever reason, you guys can't get along. And then the second time happened in 1984. They gave you a nickname.
Tragic man.
Even after 2 finals MVP.
Right.
Even after going to all those finals, this is what they bestowed upon you. If Russell Westbrook was sitting down right here, what advice would you give him?
First, take accountability.
Okay.
That's number one.
Okay.
If I don't play well, say I don't play well.
Right.
You when I didn't perform well in '84 against the Celtics, I admitted that. I took accountability.
Right.
Said, hey, I didn't perform well. I was the reason why the Lakers lost that series. And I had to say to myself, I got to get better.
Right.
So what did I do? I went out and that whole summer, I trained hard and got better. And then we played them again in '85. This next season.
Right.
Man, I was on fire. We won. No, you didn't hear that no more.
Right.
Same thing with Coach Westhead. When after he got fired, they booed me for about a month. So
because that was the first time, Magic. Because Magic said, you know, hey, I can't play with this guy, man. Your boy need to be up out of here.
Couldn't coach, man. Just he slowed us down. We were a running team, right? But he wanted to slow the pace down. And we're not a dominant.
You're not a walking the ball in the 14.
Right. That's right. Half 14, we're running and gunning team. So I got booed. So I told Coach Riley, I said, oh, I'm about to turn it up.
Right.
I must have went for about 10 triple doubles, right? And all of a sudden, you stop hearing them boos,
right?
Turning into cheers.
Okay.
And then we end up winning the championship,
right?
That same year,
right?
See, and so that's what Russell got to do.
Right.
Quit trying to fight the media, quit trying to fight the fans, and just say, you know what? I didn't play well, but I'm gonna play better,
right?
And go out there on the court and perform,
right?
That's how you stop all the things that's going on. But you can't do it by trying to come back,
right?
And trying to be mad at the fans or at the media, because the media got a job.
Correct.
And their job is, you're not playing well,
to say that.
Say it.
Right.
And I didn't mind them taking shots at me in '84. Right. I didn't play well.
And the thing is with the Lakers, Magic, and you know this, is that the fans know good basketball.
Oh, no question.
It ain't about. And the fans, this is what I say about the fans of the Lakers. And for being out here for 6 years, it doesn't matter what you did somewhere else.
No.
You need to do that for us.
That's right.
For us to cheer you and to love you, do that. Do get 100 triple doubles for us.
That's right.
Like you did those other teams. LeBron had to find that out.
Yes. Yes. And remember when he first came, everybody was still talking about Kobe. Oh, wait a minute.
And they wouldn't let you put no murals up.
That's right. Remember that? So what did LeBron do? Let me come in here and turn it out.
Turn it out.
Let me win the championship.
Right.
All that's gone. Right. He's beloved now. But also, we know championship basketball is. We know winning basketball. So listen, just come in, do your job, and if you don't play well, accept that.
Right.
But say it.
Right.
And then come back and hopefully play better the next time.
Right.
And then the fans will respect you for that.
Right.
Right. They respected me when I said I didn't play well.
Right.
Right. But I'll be back.
They wanted to hear you say that.
That's
they
right.
didn't want to hear you say, well, this team, they played so much better. You're like, no, the ball's in my hands. I got to play better. I'm the quarterback.
That's right. You the point guard. The ball is in your hand. You the floor general. You got to make better decisions. You got to make them layups. You know, you got to hit your shots.
Right.
And then you got to play hard. See, where Laker fans get mad last season, we were down there arguing with the referees.
Right.
And they were down there dunking on us.
Right.
We can't take that.
No.
We can't stand that.
Right.
No, bust your butt to get back. Try to stop them when it's a timeout. Now you talk to the referee.
Right, right.
I never did that. Not one time. I always, even if a bad call, I'm running back.
Right.
Because I got to help my teammates.
Correct.
You know, we're trying to win.
And then when the whistle blows down, I can say, hey, now I'm going to need that call. Now, so you gave that call to them down there on that end. Now I'm going to need that same call.
And that's all you got to do. See, it's another thing. You can't show them up like this.
Yes.
And hold your hands up like this.
Or wave them off.
That's right. That's right. You got to get over there. Hey, man, you missed that one. You missed that one.
Right.
You owe me one.
Right. Everybody, the greatest individual rivalry in basketball, you and Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that NCAA tournament, still was the most watched NCAA finals game in NCAA history.
Right.
How much did you know about Larry Bird prior to that game?
Well, Shannon, the summer before, they had the WIT tournament.
Okay.
And they brought all the best college players together.
Okay.
To play against the world.
Okay.
And, man, I see this guy, you know, blonde hair, you know. I said, all right, let me see if he can play.
Okay.
Man, I'm sitting there watching him shoot, Shannon. He must have made 30 in a row all net.
So he was Steph Curry before Steph.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there saying, this dude can play.
Okay.
Because, you know, brothers, we always say, okay, can the white dude really play?
Correct.
You know?
Right.
So then I said, oh, man, you're a bad boy.
Right.
Then he got in the game. Jack Givens was player of the year that year.
Right.
He tore him up.
From Jack Hill from Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Because they won the national championship in 78.
Right. That same time.
Yeah, okay.
Man, Larry Bird was taking it to him. I said, oh, man. I'm calling back home saying, oh, he for real. He for real. This dude Larry Bird?
Right.
Oh, he got it. He can play. He's dominating Jack Hill. And he said, no way. I said, oh, yeah. He's dominating. So, here we go, 6-7 months later.
Right.
We're playing in the NCAA championship game. He's player of the year. Sports Illustrated, all the magazines got me on the cover.
Right.
And I said, wow. And they're 33-0.
33-0.
Man, I said, oh.
And they hadn't been ranked since.
That's right.
And they weren't ranked before.
Yeah, that's right. And we put two guys on them. We double teamed them.
Right.
We knew we could beat them because Greg Kelser, who was a superstar in college.
Yeah,
Greg was dominant.
That was the first time I started seeing the alley-oop.
Yeah.
Because you guys brought that because, hey, you come down the court and you throw it. And I'm like, oh, that was so great.
Oh, it was sweet, man. And he could just jump out the gym and control his body.
Right.
And he had a phenomenal college career.
Right.
So we figured 2 stars could be 1.
Right.
That's what happened.
You come into the NBA because back then people don't realize this. They could draft you a year early. He went back to school. The Celtics took Larry with the 6th pick, if I'm not mistaken, in 78.
The year before.
Right. And he went back to school.
That's right.
And so they still own this draft right.
Yep.
So you guys have this, okay. How fitting. He goes to the Celtics. You go to the Lakers. And we know this rivalry in the 60s. That was the basketball. Yeah. And so now, did you have any idea that you guys were going to put basketball, the NBA, back on the map, and you're going to redefine what the NBA was?
No, Shannon, we didn't know. But what we just did was just played our game. We ended up in the 2 most famous, franchises.
Right.
The Celtics and the Lakers. And then his personality was Boston. My personality was Hollywood.
Right.
So, I mean, they couldn't have scripted this any better.
No.
And then I'm playing with Kareem and all the guys, and my first finals, my rookie season, we're on tape delayed.
Yeah.
The finals.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize. The game weren't live.
No, tape delayed.
Tape delayed.
I could go play and go home and watch myself play that night.
Yes.
Right? And so we actually brought the finals and all
it's
the
time,
other
KD.
games
It's time, bro.
to primetime TV. Yep. Larry and I changed the whole league, and also too, every other
I
year
stole that,
Lakers
and then they called a foul.
Right, Lakers will win, those Celtics will win. So it was just great, and I'm glad that we came in together because I had somebody to measure myself to,
right,
and say, hey, okay, he's great. I can't let him get too far ahead of me. I got to work hard because I want to stay in.
How was you guys' relationship? How would you describe your relationship? Obviously, you beat him in the NCAA, the finals in '79. But how was your relationship once you got to the NBA? Because I think the thing was, he was rookie of the year. I think you got like 1 or 2 votes.
That's all.
That's all you. I think it was like 32, 33 to like 1 or 2.
No, even more than that. It was 60-something to like 2. I hate to say that too. I gotta say that on TV. And so I was pissed, man. I was mad.
You like, hold on. I led a team to the NBA.
Fucking serious, bro?
2 votes, became the first rookie in NBA history to be named Finals MVP.
Yeah.
I was only the 3rd dude ever in NBA history to go from the college championship to the NBA Finals championship. And I get like, and they were 2 LA dudes. I'm like, okay, he's not that much better than me.
Right.
Not 63-2.
Right.
But okay, I took it. But our relationship, Shannon, was fractured because Celtics, like,
right.
See, we hated them, they hated us.
Right.
So we could never be friends.
Right.
And Pat Riley stressed that.
Right.
He said, I don't want. If a Celtic go to the ground, you better not pick him.
Right.
And so we had to hate them to beat them.
Right.
Right. It wasn't until 87 I went out. Converse wanted to do a commercial with both of them.
Okay.
I flew out to Prince Lick, Indiana, where he's from.
The weapons, the car.
Exactly. So he had the black ones, I had the purple and gold. Right. So we shot about half the commercial, a little bit more. Lunchtime, so I'm thinking I'm going to my trailer. So we really haven't broken bread before like this. So as I'm taking about 3 steps toward the trailer, he said, Magic, man, I'd like you to have lunch with me up at the house. My mom has prepared lunch. He threw the mom, you know. Mom. You know I can't say no. You can't say no. He just threw the mom in there. So I go to the house, you know, and he's down there, I'm down here. She's bringing out all the dishes, and she brought that last one and set it down, and she hit him. Said, "Did you tell him yet?" And Larry said, "No, Mom, you tell him." She turned and said, "Magic, you my favorite basketball player." And I just said, "Oh man, that was it. That was it." And then we started talking, right? Like 2 little boys, right? And you know, we're similar.
Shit is so annoying, bro.
We both from the Midwest. We love the game. We love to win. You know, on and on and on. And that's when our friendship evolved and grew, and we've been friends ever since.
You lead the NBA with 11.2 assists per game. Here's some of the records that you have in the playoffs. Finals, you have the finals, 21 assists in a finals game. 2,300 over 2,300 assists for the playoffs. Only player to average 12 assists in the NBA finals, and you did that 6 times. Playoff single game high of 24. Only player to have a triple-double in multiple series in game-clinching games. When you look back over your career, do you think like, yo, I don't know if these records I don't know if anybody's gonna ever get 2,300 assists, Mike.
Yeah,
I don't know if somebody's gonna get 21 assists in the NBA Finals game or 24 assists in a playoff game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I really like it, you know. And Shannon, I just played to win, man.
Right.
So my job was to set up my teammates, put them in a position that they could be successful and succeed, and that meant that we were going to win. Right. You name all these things, I don't know. I know that.
Like, Lou Dort is just so annoying, bro.
The main thing for me is that we won those 5 championships. We went to the finals, like you said, 9 and 12 years. That's all I cared about.
And they just bail them, bro. Like,
I just care about winning and doing things.
Thank you. Bail me for once, bro. Bail me. Let me get bailed for once. Bail me out.
So
bail me out of jail for once.
The fact that I have all those records, but I don't think about them. I just think about the rings and that I had my love for the game and my teammates. I wouldn't change anything. A lot of people say, "Oh man, the money they give you today, boy, don't you wish you were playing today?" And I always say, no. I said, there's nothing like playing the Suns, and the whole country is watching. Right. And I got to go into Boston Garden and try to shut those fans up. Right. There's nothing like that. Then, you know, playing against Isaiah and the Bad Boys. Right. That whole series. And then we only got one time to play against Michael Jordan, and it's too bad we had to play.
He made them gay. Oh my God. I'm not though. I'm not. So he's lying.
Listen, that was my idol. Right. I love Dr. J.
Tell about the story, because if I'm not mistaken, you spent the summer with Dr. J the year before you beat him in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, so I call him up. I get his number, and I say, "Doc, can you tell me, I'm thinking about turning pro." Right. You did it already. Right.
They just got me on lock, bro.
Leaving school early. Right. So he said, "You know what, young fella? I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to fly you out to Philly. You're going to stay with me. We're in the playoff. You're going to stay at my house.
2K24.
Watch us play games, and then we have conversation." I said, what did you just say? I'm screaming, tell my parents, I'm getting ready to go to Dr. J's house. I'm going crazy. What?
Now, you a teenager.
Yes. I'm 19 years old. Right. I'm 19. And he's flying me to Philly. It was crazy, Shannon. So I get to the crib, man, he got this big house.
Is it 2K24?
Yeah, I'm going. I heard it, bro.
That was it.
Don't bail him. Don't bail him. Thank you,
bro. Yeah. I know what I'm doing now. But for him to do that, right, always tell him, I'll never forget that. Right. He didn't have to do that. He could have talked to me on the phone. Right. Told me what I needed to know. But he said, come on. And I had a great 4 or 5 days with him. And then I'm playing him 7 months later.
He probably wish you showed up in a Nissan or a Chevy Nova, put you up in the hotel.
Because one thing about it, man, you get caught. There's only a few players I've ever got caught watching.
Right.
Dr. J was one.
Yeah. You was on the court when he jumped up on one side,
shit, and start walking in there.
Yeah.
Put it in his hand, came up on the other side of the rim. Now he walking in the air. Spun it against the glass and good, man. I said, should we ask him to do it again? Oh, man. I ain't never seen somebody hang in the air that long.
Right.
Got the throw, too.
The throw.
Oh, man. And he did some stuff to us. Woo. Man, he dunked up. Coop was...
Oh, no, he wanted the baby on Coop. Yeah. I don't know what Coop was thinking.
I know it.
Coop was thinking, and then he got up there and said, no, I think that was a bad idea.
He did that.
That was a bad idea.
Exactly. Man, he started rocking the baby. Bam! Dr. J,
that was the old Spectrum, right?
Yes. And, man, amazing, man. Just amazing. And first class, so I tried to pattern myself after him because he was first class, nicest dude. He taught me a lot.
Right.
Taught me a lot, even before I got into the league. Right. So I owe Dr. J a lot.
When you get to the Lakers, the guy that's on the team is already probably one of the 2 or 3 greatest players of all time by the time you get there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 5-time already MVP. He wins the MVP the year you get there.
That's right.
What was your impression of Kareem prior to you getting there, and then what was your impression of Kareem once you got there?
He was a guy that I just idolized again, and always wanted to. I was dreaming if I could just pass it to him a couple times.
Right.
And then this coin flip happened, and I end up a Laker, and I get there, and everybody told me, listen, man, he's a quiet dude. You know, now here I am. I'm a loud dude with a big boom box. I got, flashlight, deep on. I'm coming in Parliament, fucking Dallas.
Okay.
And he was looking at me like, oh. No. Cut that damn thing off. I was like, what? Oh, man, I had to be quiet. So that was our first encounter, that training camp.
Right.
But, so I came to him about that second, third day. I said, what do you like? What you talking about? I said, what do you like the ball? He said, I like it up high. I said, what hand you want me to throw it? He said, Jim, throw it. Nobody's ever asked me that. I said, what hand you like? Right or left? So I started throwing it to that right.
What am I doing, bro? I don't know. Why are you asking me?
Opening up to me. I was his rookie. Right. So I had to bring him Gatorade every time there was a timeout in practice. Gatorade and water. I had to buy him hot dogs. They had to be beef hot dogs every time on the road.
Right.
I had to go get his hot dog.
Okay.
But I loved it.
Right.
I loved it.
You gave his truck.
Yes. That's what I was working on.
Yeah.
First game. We down 1.
I remember this.
3 seconds to go.
That shit, man.
We throw it to him at the free throw line.
Right.
The boy turns, shoots a sky hook on net. I go running. I never seen nobody shoot a sky hook from the free throw line. You know me, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I went running. I jumped on it. I'm buzzing and choking.
What?
You know me, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I went running. I
What the fuck?
I'm buzzing and choking him. Damn, that was a good shot. So he get into the locker room, Chad, and he said, come here. He got that stern look on him. Rookie, don't ever do that again. We have 81 more games. We can't be this high after the first game. So the whole locker room looking now. Right. What am I going to do? Right. They told me, ooh, he got stolen. So I walked away and I came back to him. Listen, I'm looking up at him. If you hit a shot like that 81 more times, I'm going to jump in your arms 81 more times. That's when they found out I wasn't going to take no scrap. I'm going to be me. Right. You're going to have to accept me who I am, just like I accept you for who you are. Right. You know what? So the first 20 games, we high-five. So he ain't into that. Right. So about the next 20 games, he started looking. So he came across the lane and he dunked on somebody. All of a sudden, he came running over to me. With my high five.
Kevin, that was a gritty road win. How do you evaluate your performance?
I had it in there. Right.
It's a tough place to play. You hear the crowd. It was loud as soon as we stepped in the floor. So, we just tried to play our brand of basketball and just keep going.
The crowd had nothing on you, though. Congrats on the win.
Smartest athlete I've ever met in my life. Wow. He's amazing.
LeBron James is about to do something unbelievable. And I don't know if it'll ever be done this way again. Mm-hmm. He's about to pass you for the all-time assist. I mean, pass you. I think LeBron's about to
for a third
in assist and pass Kareem for the all-time. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Again.
No,
it'll never happen like that again.
No.
What makes LeBron so unique that he's not thought of as a score-first guy, but here he is. He's on the cusp of being the all-time leading scorer. And he's going to be a top 5 assist guy all time.
All at the same time. There's nobody at that height and size that can move that fast and also go through contact and still score. We've never seen it.
Right.
And still make his teammates better.
Right.
So he's leading in so many different ways. He can score. He can defend. He can rebound. He can assist. We've never seen that in a guy that size and that fast and that strong.
Right.
But also, we forget, he's the smartest dude.
Right.
See, people, I keep telling people, his basketball IQ is so far above everybody else. He reads situations. He reads the game. Okay, I need to score now. Or let me get so-and-so involved. He can do it all. And I think at the end of the day, to pass 2 Lakers, you're on the Lakers.
Right.
And now you're going to pass me, and then eventually Kareem to be the all-time leading scorer. And number 3 all-time in assists.
Right.
Wow. You got to give it to him.
Yeah.
You got to give it to him. And so, and a good dude.
Yeah.
A good dude. And